Hello, live stream. Setting up for Linux Unplugged right now. Very, very fun episode. We're going to do some hope casting, where you can look at the state of GNU/Linux and say, I'd like to change this. And by the magic wand that we'll be granting you just for this episode, and this episode only, you can infect or maybe affect change. I mean, it kind of depends on you. Maybe you're an infector. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Well, if it isn't Mr. Brent Photo. Hello, Brent. Hello. Hello, Sean. Hello, Sean. Good to see you, too. Hello. Hello. I say hello. Hello? 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 If I'm having audio issues on this computer, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna quit my job right now. That's it, Wes. I'm quitting. I'm out. If I'm having audio issues on the machine that we've been using all day to record and do interviews, I swear to gosh. Okay, I am legitimately, I'm having audio issues. It's all flipped. It's doing that flip thing again. Look at this. Look at this. It's doing it again. Nothing on the input there. It's doing it again. We've been literally using this machine all day to do interviews without issue. Can you believe this? Check. There we go. Thank you. How do you even? We've been talking to people all day. Like, how do you even with this? I can't even with this. Mumble Room, can you hear us now?
Is there something about
flipping it?
Yeah.
And then OBS, it's happening over here too? It's really weird.
I might have to blame Plasma.
I hope not, man. That's just... So now I don't hear them. Although I don't think they're talking. Although I don't know if they can hear us. It's... Here's the other thing one thing the Mumble developers could do that would make this about 1,000 times easier is a little level indicator right here. Just a little level indicator showing me...
Well, for an audio program, Chris? That seems
kind of... Just stupid, right?
Avant-garde.
Yeah, that's what it is. All right, so... Pulse Audio, Scarlett Solo... Now, do we know... Really, I can't believe I'm doing this again. Hey, look, it's fucked up again. It didn't save. It changed. All right, so what's it supposed to be?
2i2.
2i2. All right, so the input, I'm going to change it here, is supposed to be 2i2. How is this happening? These audio devices are changing as I close and open windows. What the fuck is going on?
That makes so little sense. Wow.
I mean, like, it just completely undermines my confidence in all of this. All right, so then the solo is the output, right? Yeah? Solo is the output?
So,
okay.
yes.
And now it's locked up. Now locked up.
That's also...
It's totally locked up right now.
Should we reboot it?
I guess. I mean, I got everything all set, in Reaper for recording. Look at the whole UI locked up.
Let's go full unplugged. I just don't know how to make this be more reliable.
I don't either.
I mean, I can think of some things, but none of those are things that we should have to do. Like, it should just work. Especially, all right, if we rebooted it or powered it down uncleanly, okay, sure.
I think that's what I have to reboot because the system's become non-responsive now. But,
like, it's not like we're changing things or not saving settings.
Right.
The machine's been on and sitting here.
So, like, the only thing I can think of now at this point, are like crazy things like some sort of automated nuke and pave every 30 days. Yeah. But it really, like, I'm having some major... I'm starting out 2019 with some major desktop Linux problems. Major desktop Linux problems. I've got issues on both these machines.
See, that's where we need those boot volumes.
Yeah. I've got issues on my machine because of both the system DU dev issue and the multi-monitor issue. And the thing that's so frustrating is they have just been sitting here. Like, this is what it does.
You're right. Yeah.
And we've just been using it since 9 a.m. We've literally been using this thing since 9 a.m. without issue.
It is interesting, too. Like, I don't have a desktop system that's as built out as this right now. Like, I'm mostly using this laptop, which has been doing fine. Like, I'm not changing things, so it's working. I've not had these problems with the The servers, though. Nope. No real server Linux problems for me in 2019.
No, servers are fine. Servers are fine.
Orbital just hangs out. It just works.
Yep. All right. Let's do this one more time. So we're going to go through the audio wizard. Let's see if it doesn't lock up on us this time. All right, so this is supposed to be the 2x2, right?
Yeah, that one's definitely true, yeah.
Okay, and then this one's the solo.
That would make sense.
All right, didn't lock up this time.
Woo!
Yay! Okay, good. Good. All right. And now I'm ready to call it a day. All right, Mubroom, can we hear you now? I can. Okay, well, that's an improvement. I can see Brent is speaking, which I couldn't see before. But I still don't hear him. Even though we just went through...
Maybe it has to go the other way. Maybe pull up the Pavio control and see what's up.
Okay. All right, so there's my levels. They're coming in fine. And... Okay, now say something, Brent. Nope, still nothing.
Are they both supposed to be the 2i2? That'd be strange, but...
Try it again, Brent.
Oh.
No, it's me.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah, because that's the in. Okay, one more time. Still nothing. I think he's just making noise. So nothing I do can make noise? Even though we've just been talking to guests all day on this computer? Is this how it works with Linux? I mean, I'm seriously wondering if I just have to stop using Linux on the desktop, not on the server, of course, but like I can't have this. Okay. So it's definitely it's definitely Mumble talking to Pulse because we just could hear that coming out of.
What was it playing on to?
All right, so there's Brent. See, that's Brent talking right there. Yeah. See that? That's Brent. And he's coming out on the analog stereo. He's coming out on the stereo, which is what we have set. We have it set right. I hope he's singing or something over there. Wouldn't that be great? So there's the USB analog stereo, right?
Yeah, solo. Output device for audio.
Volume 100%.
Oh, but is that right? What if we change?
What?
What if we switch that one?
What?
To the 2i2.
But he's on this.
But then is that? I think that's where it's going.
Right.
Ah, there we
bad.
go. There we
Could be
go.
worse.
Now, can you hear us?
Yes, it could. I know different people for here. It's 4 in the morning.
Right.
All right.
You gotta be pretty dedicated
okay, how's
to
that? How's
tune
that?
into a podcast at 4 a.m.
Can you hear
Can
us
you guys
now?
hear us now?
But for
No.
those of us lucky enough to have it in
Oh
waking
my
hours,
goodness.
it's pretty
Oh
great.
my goodness.
Are we in the right room and stuff?
Yeah, we're in the right room. See, look, we're coming in right there. Can you guys hear us?
Hi.
Hi.
No, we can hear
Can
you
you
just
hear me?
fine.
Whoa. That was the same. That was the
Oh,
same
you guys
audio
can hear us?
device it was on.
We should write the
What are we gonna write down? That we just set it to the same thing as it was on, and now it's just working. We didn't change anything.
Oh,
2x2, like you said all along, and I just put it back on
It's
that.
the new year.
Okay.
And
It's the
2x2
new
on
year.
both of them. So 2x2 on both of them apparently. Oh my gosh, you guys! I think I'm done.
Hello,
I think I'm switching to Windows. I tell you what,
You're right.
I mean, you already talking about that core audio on Mac OS.
I can't. Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna go buy a fleet of Mac Minis.
We
And put
could, well, Hackintosh. That's the whole new thing. A new Hackintosh show. We're bringing it back right as Apple is going on.
You know what I don't understand is it seems like the more you deal with something like this, the more acclimated you come to it. But I have the opposite thing happening. The more I deal with it, the more it stresses me out. Like
That's probably a good,
5 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, no big deal. This just happens. But now I'm like, oh, this is unacceptable. Must replace. Let's spend thousands of dollars and replace all the systems. We have to go
What's
nuclear.
that thing the opposite of imposter syndrome? I can't remember the exact name, but there is a specific name for the thing that
Is
is
it?
the opposite of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I don't know what to call that, but I'm so sick and tired of dealing with. So part of
imposter syndrome, 'cause
part of what has me prepped and ready to be grumpy about it is right before we went on air, our OBS system also lost its mind and switched the audio
It's
interface
Wednesday.
stuff. And you know, it was weird because like on OBS right now, when I close OBS and then open it again, it changes the Pulse audio input or output or whatever it is. I can't remember now. Randomly, just when you open OBS, it just switches it. Don't know why. That's a new thing. I like it a lot.
It's sort of
I
just
think
like a
the interest-
roulette.
Yeah, it's Salgard roulette. That makes me feel better actually thinking of it that way. It makes it sound
Okay.
adventurous.
I've been looking at interesting stuff about creating like Blender render farms using single board computers like Raspberry Pi.
Oh, fun.
Like, a Raspberry Pi is not in itself is not that good for rendering, but when you like get, I don't know, when you have 20 of them, it can be quite okay. There's this one guy who did a video on doing just this and on YouTube. Currently the thing, I'll look it up later. Like, it's very interesting, and he recommended a specific single board computer which has got 8 cores. Oh, technically, it's an octa-core ARM CPU where you can use the lower power cores as well by flicking a switch or something. Some kind of parallel processing thing that's specific to ARM. So basically, you install an optimized version of Blender for that board, and you can create a render farm with that. And the board's something like $68, and you can you buy 8 of them, and that's rival as a $5,000 PC or something like that because of the parallel processing ability or something like that. Because with rendering, that's typically what matters: parallel processing.
You guys ready to do your hope casting for 2019? Yeah, maybe they do minor.
My only hope is that we can actually do it.
Let's see here. And then we get yes, oh yes. Oh.
Touching all the knobs, fiddling with each and every button.
Okay. Inadequate. There we go. There's the bell.
Careful, Chris. Don't switch the audio once again.
I know, right? This is Tech Talk. Oh, yeah. This is Tech Pre-show. And then we got Leo.
It's for people who like to mess with computers.
There we go. It's still true.
282.
Hey.
282. Thank you.
That's interesting. I'm getting like a dozen error messages saying Watchtower failed to update Higgin. Whatever.
Hugin.
Hugin. Where are you seeing this?
Hugin and Munin.
Where is this?
No, I'm getting error messages in my email because I've got Watchtower and it notifies me when stuff happens, and I'm getting like an error. It got error response from daemon registry URL to Huggin latest get auth.docker.io token, etc. Response cancelled. Client timeout exceeded while waiting for headers. Proceeding to next. It's updating everything else. It's just Huggin it's having an issue with.
I think that we should all make those businesses fail.
But not our business, right?
No.
Right, Richard?
That's aggressive. Jeez, that would be bad.
And the value of this is negative.
Right. Negative means it's bad. That's
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
The soundboard's coming in a little low compared to you guys.
Yeah, I have it down a little bit. It's just turned down. It's all right. So I could make it louder, but then our must be blasting in your ear. You'd be.
And the value of this is negative.
It's no good. It's too loud.
Is he right beside you right now?
He's here every broadcast.
Doesn't
Doesn't miss a show.
I tell you what, I think he's in here. I think he just lives in here.
We have a special, totally free encoded stream we send right to him.
I should tweet that we're live since it's a weird day.
Speaking of Huggin, there's some very interesting stuff that you're doing with it. For example, I'm using it to send certain log events to me as a Telegram message.
Apple warns on Q1 results and says the sales results will disappoint. Apple stock is down 8% 20 minutes after the news. Apple lowered revenue guidelines from $84 billion, or to $84, down from $89. And at one point it had projected $93 billion. Apple blamed a variety of factors for the lower guidance, including deceleration in China, lower than expected iPhone revenue. Apple said the lower than anticipated revenue happened primarily in Greater China, but also said upgrades to new mobiles in other countries were not as strong as they had hoped they would be.
And on January 10th, the SEC launched an investigation into insider trading.
I bet.
But I'm looking at the stock ticker and wow, like Apple stock's just plunging at the moment.
The one thing that freaks me out about that is holy shit. Okay, it's starting to stabilize though. I love the projection though. The projection is dramatic. Wow, look at that. Anyways, I remember before the last 2008 recession, the same thing happened with Apple. First, Apple sales started to slow. Then they started to issue guidance. And then they started talking about a possible reduction in sales in the U.S., and then we had a recession. It was that exact pattern. It's like same with cars. It's the same thing. It's the last time before a big recession, the U.S. car sales slowed down. It's the same thing's happened again. And the housing market in Vegas and Seattle has slowed down.
I wonder if this is going to be one of your predictions, Chris. It sounds pretty well founded.
I don't know. I'm just hoping not. But I tell you what, I learned the hard way last time, and so I mean, yeah, I feel like I don't know. Maybe it could be really that people don't need to upgrade phones anymore, and it's just sort of a stabilizing of the market, or yeah, or they're too big or they're too expensive. Yeah, it could be that. It could be that.
It could be Moore's law drawing to a close. Yeah,
Yep.
'cause eventually we're going to get to the limit of what we can physically do.
But I
with
mean, if you think,
silicone.
but in the one area that's the one area where the phones have significant improvement. Like the phones don't change much anymore, except for the A12 chip and the A11 chip. Every year, like the Apple chips, like significantly faster.
I'm saying like, eventually it's going to get to a point where Apple literally cannot improve their iPhone because there is no new technology that's not software to improve it. And then phone sales will genuinely crash because you'll get phones and then you'll get planned obsolescence, which will probably cause arguments.
Well, it's because
Let's just
Apple's
say
not allowed
that.
to make their phones die after a couple of years now, so they can just keep them.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, they were literally slowing down old iPhones to improve battery life, apparently. So
Well,
that's
I feel like
interesting.
that's an area. I feel like that's an area where Apple really, really, really took it, and it's completely their fault. They could have communicated this way, 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 way better. Because I was just listening to common folk at a restaurant talk about how, didn't you hear about Apple phones? About how they purposely slow them down that way you buy a new one. In fact, they even got busted over it. In reality, they were taking. First of all, let's just stop and let's just all acknowledge the fact that modern CPUs are throttled. If it's in a laptop, if it's in a phone, for thermal management reasons, battery management reasons, all of these CPU cores are managed and thermally throttled now. So I think that's we got to acknowledge that throttling is happening on all of our devices that aren't hardcore desktops with tons of cooling. But the other thing is that throttling was to literally prevent the phone from dying. So the bigger problem that it was solving was one that actually affected my girlfriend that was a huge pain in her ass, is when her phone would get down to around 30-40% charge, if a process in the background peaked one of the cores to maximum performance, it would draw more power than the battery is capable of delivering, and as a protection mechanism, the CPU would halt and the operating system reboots and you lose everything. And so
I'm perfectly willing to believe that they had all the best intentions in doing that, but they completely lost the PR angle optics on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, they blew it. They should have been upfront and transparent about it. I'll tell you the way to do it. That would have been no problem at all. The way to do it would have been let the phone crash once. Let somebody get really pissed off and lose all of their work, right? And then come back and say, hey, the operating system has detected that your battery is no longer delivering enough power to run your phone. Would you like to turn on automatic throttling?
Yes, please.
Then you
But
say
that's,
yes.
That's too far outside of the it just works realm for Apple.
Yeah, I
they don't
think-
want to be doing inside baseball stuff to users.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. But that would have solved the problem. That would
Well,
have
they also
solved.
could have got out ahead of it and told the story about what it was before they let everybody else create a narrative of Apple is big and evil kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, and I think too, like they could have led with come in and get a $35 battery replacement and restore your phone to its full performance. Like that's a better story. The fact that you could get a new battery for $35 and then your phone is brand new fast again.
Yeah.
They could have totally worked that angle, but no, they just blew it and didn't say anything. And then now everybody can say, well, look, Apple updates the operating system and it slows your phone down, because it is technically true. But if you look at iOS 12, it is a significant performance improvement in every way. Booting the device, launching applications, shutting it down across all 5 years or more or plus devices that it supports. It goes like all the way back to like the iPhone 6 or something like that, or 5 even, and even on the iPhone 5s, like there is in some cases like a 30% improvement in application launch time. So they've done really hard work recently to improve the performance of iOS on older devices, and yet the common conception still is Apple throttles the phones. I mean, so they just basically I mean, even after investing a whole year in performance in iOS 12 in that release, it got them nowhere. Like, nobody's talking about the fact that iOS 12 runs phenomenally great on 5- and 6-year-old devices, and you can't even get Android on a 2-year-old device.
No.
Let alone have it run better, right? Not just run, but run better.
Like, having the hardware and software team actually able to talk to each other in depth, it does help with that kind of thing.
It's kind of it's always Apple's problem. I mean, they're idiots in that way. They're so secretive. They don't communicate. It's their own doing. It's their own doing.
Not that that's secretive. It's like they totally work in the same building, like with Apple stuff. I don't use Apple stuff because, well, basically because I'm not rich.
Yeah, there's the cost factor, isn't there? Woo!
Yeah, but you
sure
pay
is.
for you get generally. Like, I'm looking at my current phone and like the power management options, and very interesting. It's got something called Smart Resolution, which apparently lowers the screen resolution as required to save power.
Wow, smart resolution, huh? That's something. I never heard of that.
Ultra power saving mode, which I picked through it, and from what I can tell, it uses the whole big little architecture thing. It restricts you to a couple of apps that are only stock apps that have been optimized, and does something. And from what I can tell, and a bit of guesswork, it's probably just switching the CPU to running the entire system on the little architecture, but just for SMS and stuff, you could probably get away with that, because that's what power saving mode does. It restricts you to basically SMS, phone, and yeah.
Do you notice the screen difference?
The resolution, smart resolution, I don't notice it.
Mumble. I spell it mumber in the chat room. Mumble.
You've only been using it for how many years?
Yeah. All right. So I think this is probably good. I think we'll probably get started here. Did we end up with a pre-show?
No.
No, we didn't.
No. Who's got a pre-show? Come out
Anybody
of
got
the
a-
woodwork.
Anybody got a pre-show topic? Pre-show. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I've heard that about Lineage. I've heard Inagogo says that he runs Lineage and it runs way better than Oreo. And that's really your best option for an Android device that's old for support, obviously. But, it's a totally different ballgame than end users just downloading over-the-air iOS update that makes their super old phone run better. Like, it's just the fact that you can flash Lineage and get a better performing operating system is really, really good news. And it's great for technical users in the know, but it doesn't really help average people. As we all know, Russia confirms
Apparently
a
there's-
robot tank is in Syria. Okay, probably not a pre-show topic, though.
Apparently, there's been over 75,000 commits to the Linux kernel this year.
That's interesting. Is that a story? Oh my gosh. So here we were just talking about the battery thing.
Yeah.
Apple cites customers taking advantage of significantly reduced pricing for the iPhone battery replacements, preventing iPhone upgrades. Huh. Apparently a lot of people took advantage of the $30 upgrade for the iPhone 6 and 6Ss.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why, right?
Huh. They say they also believe that consumers are adapting to a world with fewer carrier subsidies, the U.S. dollar strength in some areas, and customers taking advantage of significantly reduced battery replacements. And you think about it, too, like, if you got a phone you really like and you can pop a brand new battery in there and it runs if it runs like the day you bought it. Especially if you just, wipe the OS, put a new battery in there, you got a new phone.
Yep, absolutely. And especially if you're not doing a whole bunch of
No.
upgraded stuff, like
No.
the web browser still works fine.
Like 98% of people who probably buy phones.
Yeah.
Mark Au is not getting a live stream yet. We'd be up.
Yeah, it's definitely up.
All right, I should probably use the laser before we start. Now that I think about it, I should probably get it out of here.
Get it out of here.
I hope everybody had a good holiday. Well, you know what? Let's talk about that in the show. Actually, we should save it for the show.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah, happy 2019. Happy frickin' 2019. How about that?
You're the Linux desktop.
Somebody had to do it. There it is.
Always.
That's good.
It's like a tick.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately.
Is this bathroom music?
This is Christmas music.
Please pause while Chris goes to the washroom. Here's some music for you.
Hey, Brent, what province are you in, if you don't mind me asking? Because I might be in one of them.
So,
What time
I'll
zone?
expand your question. Where am I currently is different than where my home is. So I'm currently in BC.
Oh,
I've been here for a few months just doing some stuff, but my home province would be Ontario.
okay. Me as well. So we might actually be closer than
Oh, cool. You know,
me, you, and Alan.
I went to Linux.
Ontario strong.
Right, yeah, I represent the north, and he represents the south.
And
where
I'm
you
in the middle somewhere.
Well, what's middle? I'm in Sudbury when
Simcoe.
I'm usually home.
Sudbury.
Okay, cool.
Well, my
Nice.
grandfather used to say that where I am is the jumping off place to nowhere, but it's actually Sudbury.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Once you get past us, there's nothing.
All right.
Hey, Blender's 25 today.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Gosh, isn't it amazing how some of these open source projects are getting to this age? Like Wine and Debian and Blender, and it's really kind of making me feel old. Best to have a bio right. Hello, we have a virtual Popey. He's here in spirit.
Aww.
Do we have okay, people were able to get through staging? Good.
I landed on air somehow.
Oh, look at you going to front of the line. Some people are registered, like once they've passed a few checks, we just pop them in the pre-registered.
Okay.
Looks like I could just move straight from the
Pre-reg.
the lobby to the on the air
Yeah.
channel.
You have Mumble pre-check, so you've been Mumble
Is
pre-check
it like
certified.
PSA
Yeah,
pre-check?
exactly. It's a
Linux Nexus.
global entry for Mumble. Nerds. All right. Let's do our moment of silence here.
Mom.
Hello, future fucking Joe. This is the Unplugged program, and we're setting up right now. Mr. West Payne and I doing our podcast for the day. It's our third podcast for the day.
Ooh.
Right. Oh, and there's a plane going overhead. How about that timing today? Every time we've started this, there's been. Oh, I deleted those, so Joe hasn't heard those other ones. Where we cursed and complained about the airplanes. I just removed them all.
You're welcome, John.
I save them time, so that way I can sit here and ramble and waste his time. All right, here we go. Everybody, do your moment. Do your moment of silence, and smoke them if you got them. In 3, 2. Okay, that's all right. I got right through it.
Oh
Whoa,
boy.
I was trying not to cough that whole time. I was trying not to cough. See, I got a watery eye. You see that? You see my watery eye?
The sacrifices you make for the show.
That's because I was internalizing that cough. Am I going to do it? All right. Coming out Mickey Mouse on YouTube for me?
Oh,
Jesus.
hey, Popey.
Oh, hey, if you're having Mickey Mouse audio, try switching the quality. I'm wondering if it's the encoder. So we have multi-bit rate now, and it seems that maybe on YouTube, for some stupid reason, the lower bit rates have this really weird reprocessed audio. I don't believe that's the same on any of the other streams, but on the YouTube one, could be that. It could be It could also be. Maybe pull up the JB Live and see if it's an audio interface thing or if it's the quality stream thing, because we have had a shit ton of audio issues today.
How do I change that
Hi.
on the YouTube? Hello.
In
How
the
do I
gear
change that
thing,
on
you can
YouTube?
go in the gear, and it's like if you're switching from like a low res video to a high res video. You know what I mean?
No, all I've got is quality.
Yeah, quality.
Quality, speed, and annotations.
Yeah, you want quality. Quality is it?
What, 720p?
Yeah, or source if they have it. I wonder if that's it. Oh yeah, we do sound funny,
No.
don't we? No, it's us. It's us. I was just curious if that's it. Now, no, I think it's us. If you're hearing it too, Wes.
Oh, this is on YouTube still.
Yes, still. All right. Any when you change it? Oh, I've always wanted to do a show like that. It sounds so funny. There's not really.
Happy New Year, Chris.
Yeah,
by the way.
thanks. You too. I'm having a good one. All right, so that's now 2 minutes of wasted disc. I'll just delete that. This has been my day. This is everything I've recorded today. We've been doing a lot of recording today because I'm going to be traveling. So Wes and I have been recording literally all day, and now everything's falling apart. Everything's just both our Skype machine and what we call the Skype machine, which is the Mumble machine, and the OBS machine are just shitting their audio all over the place. I don't know what's changed in the last. I mean, we took a 20-minute break and then came back. We've been using these machines all day long, and they haven't had any problems. And now I'm having all kinds of problems. I sound like a chipmunk.
Yeah, you're right. The JBLive.tv stream is fine.
Oh, it is. So the non-YouTube stream is fine. So it isn't anything in OBS in this case. This is a separate server issue. Well, that's fun. That's a lot of fun.
You know, Chris, your perceived patience on all this stuff is really astounding.
Really? Because it feels like I'm being very impatient.
Or the way you're wording it is very kind.
What's that way?
Twitch is fine.
Twitch is fine? All right, so Twitch is good, and JBLive.tv is good. And even when you switch quality, right?
That's a good question. I was already on high quality.
Like a boost. Like a boost. All right, well, I'll ping
Sorry,
Alan.
I shouldn't have mentioned it.
No, it's good to know. Because otherwise I just, Yeah, I thought so. Alan says that's odd. I agree. Other Alan. All right. Too many Allens. All right. It's so funky. It's got to be like an encoding between Scale Engine and YouTube thing or something.
I would think
I
so.
bet you. I bet you if there's any man that can fix it, it's Alan Jude.
And I mean, so this should all be to the service, right? Eventually, it's all going to work seamlessly, and you'll get fancier multi-bitrate digital. I've just seen on the screen. Jupiter Broadcasting.
Digital Jupiter Broadcasting. A letter from Tim Cook. Apple is fucked this quarter. Boy, that's not something I've seen. You haven't seen that in a long time, where they've had to warn investors. All right. Well, I guess I can't even really turn off the YouTube stream right now. So I guess we just sort of proceed. And I apologize that I sound like chipmunks.
Maybe if everybody lowered their voice a bit, it would sound corrected.
Right. We'll talk low and slow, and then on YouTube, it'll be put back together at a normal speed. The best audio stream is going to be in the Mumble Room. If you want a good audio.
That is fine.
All right.
It's funny to me that sometimes you're Barry White and sometimes you're Mickey.
I know. I think between the two, I prefer Barry White. That's funnier to me. Although maybe Mickey Mouse is funnier. I haven't heard it very much. Maybe it is funny. Especially if it's not really bad like this. Maybe that'd be really funny. I don't know.
I think that probably means you're exactly positioned between those two.
Yeah.
All right. So now, one more time for Future Joe. Let's do our moment of silence. You ready? 3, 2. Well, at least I know I'm leaving this studio in shambles. That always makes me feel good. I always love hitting the road.
Yeah, that's no fun. Dang.
Yeah. Well, as long as I'm not using Mumble or OBS, I'll be fine.
Maybe while I'm in here, it'll just work just perfectly.
Yeah, probably. That is how it goes. Like other people, I never have these problems. Honestly, have you ever heard of people saying, here's essentially, briefly, what my problem seems to be on both the OBS system and the Mumble system is when I open Mumble or I open OBS, the sound interface settings change. They get flipped around in Pulse Audio. And so, like, even devices that I don't even have enabled in Pulse Audio get selected. It's the craziest thing. And just closing and reopening it will cause it to happen. Nothing's changed. Programs haven't been updated. It's still 1804. Nothing different. About a week ago, no, 2 weeks ago now, was it? How long ago was it? 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we had a power outage?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, we had a power outage. Powered them back on. But we've been doing shows and productions since then. So it's not like I just can't even.
The first run around the block.
All right, here we go. It is the Unplugged program, and we're going to do this shit either way. One way or another, we're going to get this thing in a can. So here we go. In 3. Oh, we got to do a pre-show. Shit. Anybody got a pre-show topic real quick? Like a quick one?
Well, Chris, did you know that researchers are now putting fish into augmented reality tanks? That's right, AR for fish.
I love it. You're telling me I can get a fish tank that's not real, or the fish tank's real but the fish aren't? What part's the AR part?
Well, so they've attached AR to the fish. They're trying to use it to study how the fish think they can hide. So they're like recording what the fish sees and playing it back and tweaking it to see how the fish responds to different visual input.
This is what we're spending our time on?
Mount the camera on a fish.
Yeah, that's no good. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 282 for January 2nd, 2019. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's talking about fish this week. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
And not the shell. Not yet at least, although they did have a new release.
Sometime soon.
Yeah, sometime soon we're going to have somebody on from the project and talk about the awesome fish shell. But this episode, we're doing what I like to call a little hope casting. If you had a magic wand bestowed upon you by the Linux Unplugged program, and you could affect any change in the open source world in 2019, what would it be? And to warm us up, we're going to look back at some of the major trends that really stood out from us throughout 2018 and talk about those things, the things that bent the open source world a little bit and changed the direction of things, the things that really kind of stick out now that we're on the other end of it. And then that will inform our 2019 hope casting. What do you think, Wes? That sound like fun to you?
That's a winning recipe.
Okay. Did you have a good holiday?
Oh, I had a wonderful holiday.
Yeah.
But we are back here at work because there's just so much awesome Linux news
That's
to
true.
talk about.
That's true. We couldn't be away.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hopecast, right? There's a lot of good things that could happen, and there's no ref on this episode.
No.
We can say whatever we like.
This one's freewheeling. Although we'll probably still hear from that ref if we get it wrong.
Uh-oh.
You know how that works. All right, well, before we go any closer, let's bring in that virtual lug. Time, appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
Hello,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and like I always say, time approps. That's just easier, the general catch-all. I did say we're going to we'll be doing our hope castings, but I did have a little community news. Originally, when we were planning this episode, I thought, there's not going to be any news with the holidays.
Yeah, everyone's taking breaks.
Everybody's off. There's no open source getting made. Turns out there's news. And the first news may actually may be really good for me and my predictions that I made just last week.
You are getting lucky
I-
already.
I am actually really doing quite well. The first one was my Clear Linux prediction, which apparently the good folks over at Intel agreed with me, and we have a pretty big update from Clear Linux this week. The first is this sort of call to action blog post, co-authored by Ike and I'm going to say Ook.
I think you're right.
And they talk about the challenges they're trying to solve with their special get-out-of-the-way desktop version of Clear Linux that's ready for remote desktop, ready for performance, everything you need, just a single command away, optimized around a special-built XFCE desktop.
Oh, yeah, trimmed down, lean and mean.
With sane defaults, as they say. Their philosophy is stateless. And that is enshrined in their operating system. They've also extended this to the visuals of the desktop, using the beautiful Arc GTK theme with elementary XFCE icons, and made it ready for remote rendering to make sure that things like special gradients wouldn't be there to slow down the remote performance, and that OpenGL applications would work awesome. This is a big push by Intel for Clear Linux to be a player on the desktop. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but I like this angle. I like the XFCE base for the desktop. I like that they're focusing on running it in remote desktops, remote virtual desktops, you might say, which was another prediction of mine.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it too. I thought some of their verbiage around you're a grumpy old sysadmin who just knows what a desktop should be and doesn't need a newfangled thing on your server under the familiarity header. That doesn't play well with me, but I can see it. A simple thing that does work well in a virtualized environment, if you're already using an operating system that basically targets that. Yeah, sometimes, especially if you're coming from the Windows world or you just want a GUI because looking at using something to edit the partitions is just easier that way.
What do you think, Popey, of Intel's play here to base their Linux desktop around XFCE? Clever?
I think it makes sense. Because you need something lean, especially for remote desktop. You need something that's not got too many effects baked in, and it's not too GPU heavy, so that you can scale it up and have tons of these running on one machine if needed, or you just want to have a super fast, lightweight protocol between you and the remote machine, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's cunning in a way that most people might go for flashy and name grabby, and they went for tried true and honestly one of the better desktops for a remote session. I'm really curious to see where Intel goes with this, and maybe it's me, but I feel like I read kind of Ike's language in this blog post a little bit. I'll give you one of the lines that stands out. It's sort of an Ike line to me. When it comes specifically to targeting the developer or administrators, we see an entirely different set of challenges. Many of us would like to simplify remote access from the desktop to our deployed machines to facilitate that efficient workflow. As such, we took certain points into consideration when building the developer desktop experience. Reminds me a lot of how he talked about projects in Solus.
Right, there's this idea of, well, of course it should be done this way. And
Yeah.
just like, do it right. You don't have to do everything.
Right.
And those are principles. I mean, in
Yeah,
general,
he's
I
usually
think
right.
He's usually right. Yeah.
That was the thing about Ike. Yeah, that's fascinating. And it was co-authored by him, this post. So we'll be hearing a lot more, I think, from Clear
Be
Linux.
interesting to see how that evolves and actually how many people in the community pick it up.
Yeah, and of course the other big thing around Clear Linux is the gaming project, the Steam project that Ike had been working on that he talked on the show about before, is being moved over to Clear Linux, it appears. Did you see this?
No, I did not.
Yeah, that whole Steam compatibility thing that he was working on. Popey, did you see this, that this is now a Clear Linux project?
Yeah, I saw there's a fork of it now on under Ike's new GitHub account. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I wonder how Solus... I think I know how Solus feels about that, actually. But yeah, I think I'll be watching this one, hoping that my predictions come true. I mean, that's really that's the reason.
Good luck to you.
I'm kind of tempted to try it, too. If I could install Snaps. Seriously. Are Snaps available for Clear Linux? Because...
Nope.
That makes it a lot harder to do the... some of those applications that I use for my job. They're in Snaps.
Why would you want that on your professional workstation, Chris? I don't get that.
Somebody ought to get on that. All right. Well, I know something else somebody ought to get on. We got to get collective, and we got to make some collective action on this next story. You're not going to believe this, but a port of the Riser 4 file system for Linux 4.20 is in the works. His wife might be dead, but the file system in his name continues on. There hasn't been a formal Riser 4 file system patch released since September when it was ported to the 4.18 kernel. But via Git this week, there was a port for Linux 4.20 kernel should you want to utilize this once promising Riser file system.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Edward Shishkin, he's the last main developer. He's got his own kernel tree, and it's not actually released yet, but there is a new branch with fixes, and they're not very many. Honestly, there hasn't been that many changes on the Riser side, so there's not a lot of changes that you actually need here.
Yeah.
There's also a new branch for some upcoming feature work, volume-related fixes, balancing work, a new key allocation scheme. So if you're a user, okay, maybe there's some good stuff happening, but why are you a user?
Legacy data, maybe? But even then, get a new RAID setup and copy it over. I don't know, really.
We have XFS. You'll be fine.
That's sort of been the situation for years, though. Some people are still using it, but you think about it. We haven't seen Riser 4 mainlined into the Linux kernel in 2019. We're not going to see it. We haven't seen it yet. It's not likely to happen in 2019.
Hey, that might be someone's hopecast.
Well, I'm going to say this right now. Here's my pledge. People speculate. People in the know. People familiar with the matter speculate that if a corporate backer were to come along and corporately back Riser, whatever that means, its inclusion in the kernel or whatever, then it could be mainline. So I make this commitment right now. If the audience can organize around this and form a company, I will fund it. I'll fund $2,000 of my own personal money. If we could get Riser somehow mainlined in the Linux kernel, it'd be the best thing this show ever did. It would be amazing. And what is it? What is corporate backing really, right? Isn't that just a company that's willing to put their name on something and submit the patch and fight for it? I mean, I don't know. I think so. We just gotta get organized.
Maybe fund a little bit of development work if there's changes.
Yeah, sure, why not? Sure, if we got extra money after the pizza party, we form an LLC, right? Something like Axe Murder File Systems Incorporated. No, I don't know what we call it, but we form an LLC. And we collectively raise some money. I'll seed it with $2,000 just to get this going. We probably need to raise a little more than that. And then we submit it to the kernel for inclusion. By the end of 2019, we get Riser FS mainlined. I think it'd be a massive accomplishment. I'm just putting it out there. It's for the audience to take and run with. I'm just the idea guy. But you let me know. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's a great plan.
Would you put in $10?
Oh, yes, of course. For Linux, who wouldn't?
What a ridiculous accomplishment that would be. If we somehow had managed to put together enough organization to...
Yeah, probably we should use that to fund other kernel features?
No, that's
or...
ridiculous. This is important. I mean, somebody's got to work on the important things because companies like Google now are focusing on getting GPU support for their Linux apps running on Chrome OS. This is massive. Chrome OS is in the early stages right now of adding full-fledged graphics acceleration to the Linux apps that are necessary for not only running games, but some other important apps too. There's probably a few that come to mind.
Oh yeah, that is right. Yeah, you can play like non-intense games, a little bit of GPU work, things like that.
Sure.
But don't go crazy.
No.
And of course, especially these days, games aren't the only programs that actually use a GPU.
No, more so than ever.
Yeah, actually, one major application that Google has been hard at work trying to perfect for Chrome OS is, of course, Android Studio.
That'd be good.
And while Android Studio itself can run on Chrome OS today through the Linux app support, the Android emulator, which is used for testing all of your Android apps on simulated device, well,
needs the GPU.
Needs that GPU.
Yeah, so that's probably the main driver for this. But we'll see. It is in the source code management system now. There is a new option to enable virtual machine, Linux GPU virtual machine acceleration, whatever they're calling it. It's going to be in the beta channels, obviously, but I don't think you're going to see a super easy user way to do this yet.
No, not so far. You're going to have to go to the command line, run VMC start, enable GPU.
There you go. And then the application you want to enable, that's not so bad. And then eventually they'll probably just turn it on automatically once they've got it nailed down. The nice thing about Chrome OS, I suppose, is they've got kind of the Apple advantage. They control the operating system, and it's a range of devices, but it's a limited range.
Yeah,
it's not
right.
the entire marketplace they have to support. It's devices that they've blessed to run Chrome OS, so they, in theory, know the whole addressable market there.
And in somewhat of like an iOS, same thing. Like they're starting from a more limited platform of support, right? Here's what our device does, and then adding things as they think it's up to snuff.
Yeah, I wonder if that's 2019 might be the year I get a Chromebook. I think I've been pushing it, but if you got full-fledged Linux apps on there with GPU support, I gotta at least try it. Gotta see what it's like.
Yeah. Okay, I'm curious too.
Part of me is, nervous that this is the Linux desktop. Chrome OS is the Linux desktop, and
What if you love it? What if that's true and
well,
you love it?
That'd be great, actually. I'd be okay with that. Brent, you didn't get any. Brent, you didn't end up with any Chrome OS experiences on your recent travels. Welcome back to the show, Brent. It's good to have you back. You must have had a mobile computing setup while you were traveling all around the world. World traveling man, you are.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, it's good to be back. I got all set up yesterday and realized I was one day off. But
yeah, well, special day today because of the holidays.
Wah, wah. But I sort of brought my whole production machine down.
You
with
did?
me.
Wow.
Well, I was in Chile for like 2.5 weeks or something like that, doing some really in-depth paragliding stuff. My twin brother does that, and I got a free opportunity to learn how to do it, which was really great. But I was also there with a camera, so I was trying to capture a whole bunch of stuff that was going on, and I just thought, if I'm gonna try to be on assignment without my production machine, it's a bit of a challenge. So I did break down and carried extra stuff, and half regretted it because I had to haul it all. But
I
no
bet.
Chrome OS. Sorry, no Chrome OS.
I bet more than half.
Yeah. Well, I'm being generous.
I didn't know you had a twin brother either. How do I know if I'm
There you
talking to
go.
real Brent or Brent's twin?
It's strange. So I'm visiting him in BC still at this point, and I'm sitting at his desk, and he has, of course, the exact same computer that I do because I set him up with it. So it's the only
You're
difference
slowly stealing his identity.
Nice.
That's it, right? Pretty soon I'll be driving his car.
Soon
We'll
you'll
see.
be just as good of a paraglider.
If I had a twin brother, I'd keep it a secret.
Hey now, yeah.
I would keep it a secret if I had
what's
a
that?
twin brother, and I would swap. Like today, he'd be working, not me. This week, it would be twin brothers week, and I'd be off this week. But I'd never tell anyone I was doing it. You know?
So most of the time
well,
he
Chris-
spends like he's having to learn, right? You write down
Yeah.
all the things you do. Here's the new.
Well, we got to
facts.
make sure we're eating the same stuff.
yeah.
We got to buy 2 of everything. I mean, it's not cheap, but I feel like it's worth the long game. Have you thought about it, Brent? Have you tried that?
Well, here's a question for you, Chris. How do you know it's not me? How do you know it is me?
You're right.
Huh?
I
Got
don't.
you there.
Okay. Fair
So,
enough. And
yeah,
you wouldn't
I'm-
say it. You wouldn't tell
quote-
me, obviously, because that would ruin it.
Well, exactly. All the benefits go away if you say something. Although,
Now,
did I
if
just give it away?
let's say, Richard Stallman comes down and he says, you know what I want to do is I want to give you some of this free software foundation money, because, what's he going to do with it? So he writes you a big old check and says, here you go. Here's $5,000, Brent. I want you to modernize your mobile setup. where do you go with that $5,000? You go like down the route of a ThinkPad? Do you go down the route of a Chromebook? Where would you go at this point?
So that's interesting because when you were asking the question, I thought it was like $5K to revolutionize the idea of a mobile setup, but you're talking just $5K to purchase.
Well, if you had to go out and
get
get one today, because the reason why I ask you is, man, I would be thinking that as I'm sitting there carrying all these heavy bags around and stuff. Like, what would be going through my head is, how can I make this better? This is the worst thing ever. But I'm also a bit of a whiner.
So, it's funny. This trip for me changed something in my mind, and my number one change that I would love to see actually doesn't have anything to do with my computer. It'd be a lighter, better camera.
Oh, sure.
And I think that might be a bit of my own limitation. I'm still using a DSLR, and they've got some wonderful mirrorless cameras and stuff out there. So it's more about me having to buy something else and push the envelope in
Right,
my
I suppose
own
that
arena.
stuff's so heavy in comparison to your computer. The computer stuff isn't that big of a deal.
That's it, right? And the computer's slim, so you can shove it in a bag, and it doesn't take up that much space. But as far as the camera gear goes, it generally has its own backpack or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, but 5K won't do it, Chris. 5K won't do it in that arena.
No, that might get you a lens.
Yeah, that's a start.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a totally different ball game. Yeah, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see if Richard Stallman comes and writes that check. Because yeah, you're right. You could totally redo that whole setup if you're starting with the camera gear.
Yeah, that's it. And so having invested so much into one system, it's always a little tricky to move, right? And that's probably true of computers as well. But to answer your original question, I would say just very broadly, the thinnest, most Linux-friendly laptop I can possibly get that has an IPS screen and just gets out of the way.
Yeah, a nice screen is definitely important for what you're doing, too. Well, glad to have you back. And glad you enjoyed your travels. Sounds like paragliding. Sounds like quite the adventure. With a twin brother.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a heck of a story. You should be vlogging
It was
this.
cool.
I'd watch that. I'd watch that.
I'm not as sophisticated as you. Maybe I'll start.
You
But
should.
I
You
did
should.
throw up in the IRC a little gallery just so people can get a sense of what I was doing. So almost all of those shots, at least the photos, are actually of me. So there's me in the sky with birds and stuff like that. It's really amazing. And there's some cool videos there from an expert who knows a lot more than I do. But basically, we're flying over the city and doing some really cool stuff. So yeah, thanks for the interest there. And for sure, I missed being plugged into JB for that time.
Plugged into
I'm back.
It's good to have you back. Well,
Thanks.
why don't we do a little kind of looking forward now? Let's start shifting gears. What we're gathered here for today, and let's start with Wine. Wine is one of those projects that's been around forever now, and they're aiming for their 4.0 release, which could be massive for them, including a lot of the work with the DXVK stuff recently being support for querying BIOS data on Linux, Kerberos authentication.
What?
OpenGL core context being enabled in Direct3D, a bunch of Direct3D stuff actually, including multi-threaded command streams, all kinds of good stuff. So Wine, I think, this isn't a prediction. I mean, just Wine with the recent Proton work and all this is just going to have a fantastic 2019. But just to kind of get us kicking, I think 2019 might be GNOME's year to lose. So, GNOME shipping on all major commercial and non-commercial Linux distros right now. But just looking at some benchmarks that Michael Larble posted on December 30th over on Phoronix, impressively, GNOME has made significant performance improvements over 2018. And now, at the beginning of 2019, in some benchmarks, is performing better than Mate, LXQt, XFCE, and Plasma, even. Not in all circumstances, and these are mainly GPU-bound tests. Even in some circumstances, under Wayland, it's still performing better than those other desktops. And this is undoubtedly due to work by a lot of great people on the GNOME project and folks at Canonical. No question about it. This has been a collective effort for them to improve the shell. But we started out 2018 feeling pretty bad about where GNOME was at performance-wise, memory leaks. I mean, the beginning of 2018, we were talking about memory leaks on
That's
GNOME.
right.
Now, they've closed that performance gap and even in some cases exceeded the performance of the other desktops in certain types of tests.
Yeah.
We're not talking about like multi-threaded things. We're talking about certain types of GPU-bound tests. So it's really GNOME's year to lose over 2019 because they're addressing the performance issue. If they can start rebuilding parts of the shell over time, so we have
That's the question, right there is, okay, well, it's in an okay place. I don't think, there are questions about the future, and 2019 is when, can they keep up the same level of attention to detail, new features, keeping things stable, while going under a major re-architecture?
Yeah. All right. So there you go. In old school, when we still had ads, that's what we call a tease.
I've never installed GNU/Linux.
Let's take a second here and do a little housekeeping, and then we'll jump into the year in review and the hope casting. So a couple of items I just want everybody listening to be aware of that I think are important. I'll be gone for a little bit. I'll be traveling down to Texas in the RV, and on my way down, stopping to get married, and then honeymooning. So I'll be in and out in a way. We've pre-recorded some great conversations that will be rolled into the show while I'm not here. And we also have some episodes that I'll be on while I'm on the road. And then there'll be some that I'm not on. So it's big, it's exciting. And I'll be down in Texas. We'll be doing a whole bunch of new content launches for Linux Academy.
Nice.
So I'll be on the live streams doing that again. Yeah, that's always a lot of fun. And then, flying to Cancun for part of that and doing the honeymoon thing too.
Ooh, are you excited?
I am. I'm very excited. And so on our way down to Texas, we're stopping in the Arizona desert in this spot. It's called BLM land, which is the Bureau of Land Management.
Right.
And it's kind of like no man's territory. The federal government owns it, and they just have no use for it, so they let you just camp on it for free.
Particular American West kind of problem.
It's so great. It really is the best kind of problem. And it's really, this area is really, really well known for star watching. So we're gonna do like a 5 a.m. in the front of the stars kind of thing.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, we're kind of hoping to track down a photographer in the area. So we'll see.
Hey, my hand's up.
Are you in Arizona though?
Bring it on.
I love it. That's awesome. So we will have some stuff while I'm out. But so I'll be in and out for a bit and doing that stuff, and then down in Texas. Gonna live down in Texas for like 3 weeks, basically almost a month. Just gonna have Lady Jupes parked down at Linux Academy.
That is nice. Yeah, right. Yeah. This is the whole you live in an RV benefit.
Yeah. Plus, it's winter, so I'm cool getting out of here for a little while. It's good. Not that it's amazing in Texas, but it doesn't rain like it does here. And then, of course, one more thing I want everyone to know about is I'll be back before Linux Fest, but in April. It is Linux Fest. I'll be back by around the end of January. But April 26th through the 28th, 2019, Bellingham Technical College in Washington State, Linux Fest Northwest, 20th anniversary of Linux Fest.
Yeah, you've heard us invite you to this before and extol the many, but this is the year.
This is the one
it's gonna be big.
So that's a bit of housekeeping I had for you. I'm looking forward to my time on the road. I will be popping in, like when I'm in Texas. I have a studio down there now, so I'll pop in and do the show thing and all that. So I won't be gone the entire time, but there will be portions in January where I'm gone. But the show will go on. LinuxUnplugged.com/subscribe. Now, before we go into 2019, let's talk just a little bit about what stuck with us in 2018. And I got a couple things, and we could toss them around, but just one I bet we don't have a lot of commentary on. But I think we'll always remember Meltdown was in 2018. Meltdown and Spectre were a huge thing.
Yeah, remember when we found out that a lot of the recent designs of our CPUs was just kind of fundamentally unsound?
Yeah.
That was great.
And even today, we are seeing articles published about the performance penalties. I just saw an article about how Linux is particularly taking a penalty right now in a particular area when you have a particular type of mitigation that's much worse than in any of the other operating systems. And they're scrambling to try to fix that. And now we're in 2019. So I think that was pretty big. But for me personally, in my Linux usage, one of the biggest things that happened was the release of Ubuntu 18.04. I rebased my whole studio on that. And I rebased my workstations on that. And some of the derivatives I use rebased on that.
Yeah, it kind of took over your whole life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went all in on 18.04. And I think it's been a pretty great release. I think it's been pretty solid. I think
especially for workstations, for servers. I mean, I think 1604 was a big culmination for the project in general, just with all the changes that had happened.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
1804 is just a shiny, nice OS.
It's one of those releases that you feel really comfortable recommending. You know,
They're hitting their stride,
to new
yeah.
people and stuff. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, give this a go. Give this a try. And I felt like at the end of 2018, 1804 still stands out. You know, almost a year later now, it really still stands out as one of the best releases that they've had, and one of the better desktop Linux releases. Every distro's got good releases, but this I thought was a particularly good one. I'm sure anybody in the mumble room, if they want to chime in on that, I'm sure you guys probably feel similar. But if you don't, feel free to interrupt me.
I wholeheartedly agree, Chris. Of course.
Of course you do. But I think even, you know, I mean, even as somebody who works for Canonical, you have to admit there's some releases that are good, and there's some releases that seem like they're pretty great. And I think you guys do a pretty good job of nailing it on the LTSs. 1404 was solid, 1604 was solid, and 1804 is solid. But now you've really got it down. Live patching, hardware enablement, backporting, like the whole thing. Like there's very little penalty now for using the LTS, and it really kind of all came together.
I've long stuck on the LTSs like most normal people, and as I've mentioned here before, the number of people who stick to LTS releases of Ubuntu is, you know, an order of magnitude greater than those people who venture into the non-LTSs. And sure enough, there are people who try the non-LTSs, especially those adventurous gamers who want the latest Mesa or some other interesting driver for a bit of hardware they have. Sure, that's what that's there for, is to try out that new stuff. But the stability of the LTS is so critical, and 1804 has, I agree, been pretty fantastic. I'm running 1804 on my main machine here, and I have no intention of moving off it right now.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the projects that are based on Ubuntu have benefited from it too. The Elementary team released Juno this year, and it is a great release. And that project is firing on all cylinders in a way that no other distribution is. It's really impressive to watch that. But another 2018 item that impacted me, like in an emotional way, even. And now looking back on it, feels like what is the not a tempest in the, what's the saying, like
tempest in a teacup.
Is that it? Okay, yeah. The kernel code of conduct stuff just blew up in a
huge news,
in a way that was just maybe way too strong. Not because these things don't matter, but because if you're not involved with the project, you know, you don't really have a lot of skin in the game.
Right. Like, I mean, if you didn't hear any news, you didn't know about, you know, Linus stepping away, any of that stuff, the kernel releases, I mean, they kept happening, work on goes.
Yeah, I think looking back on it, what bothers me about it the most is something that the Linux community does more and more as we are more hyper-connected on the internet, and that is we have secondary outrage. We almost, like, we get outraged on the behalf of another individual. So some other individuals, in this case the kernel developers, are being oppressed by this code of conduct, and so everyone freaks out and gets outraged, even though it doesn't directly affect them. They're not involved with the project. They won't be under this code of conduct. I mean, you could argue they use the product, but you know, but the outrage just was. It was as if each person was individually affected by the change.
And then we just like to make doom and gloom predictions too, and it's hard when there are big things announced, big changes, to just be like, take a beat.
Right.
We'll see how this goes.
Well, and not to toot our own horn, but I feel like that was sort of our take on it, was everybody slow down and let's just see how this thing plays out. I mean, we had a lot behind the scenes where we voiced everybody's opinions, and we really kind of had a group discussion. But when we got a microphone, we kind of, in that episode, I feel like took a more, all right, let's just everybody slow down and remember that we need to trust the people that are running the project. The people that are developing the kernel know more than we do about what it's like to develop the kernel. But I think we'll always kind of look back at that as, I don't want to say a stain, because there's still valid points that were made in the discussion, but...
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see any changes or progress in that discussion in 2019.
Not our proudest moment, though. No. Not our proudest moment.
No.
Chrome OS, Linux apps coming. You know, we watched that go from a rumor to beta to shipping. They really moved on that pretty quickly. And now we have full-fledged Linux applications on Chrome OS, and Google's really signaling, hey, this is a platform for developers now. It's becoming a full-fledged
Yeah, a couple of
operating
years
system.
ago, would you have ever thought that?
No.
Like Google's making a desktop Linux.
It's supposed to
basically.
be. It's supposed to be the web browser OS. You know, and they're just using
I
Linux
thought they
as
were
a
a
detail.
search engine.
I thought they were an ad company. Yeah.
I mean, now you're thinking that this next year is going to be the one where you do get a Chromecast. So
A Chromebook. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, because they added that support. They added that support for. What do you think, guys? Code of Conduct and the Chrome stuff. Would you rank those as major moments in 2018? Brent, how do you feel like looking back on the Code of Conduct stuff and Chrome OS? Does that stand out to you as something that shifted?
Well, I think as you were talking about it, I was thinking, well, okay, imagine ourselves in 5 years and looking back, what are the things that are going to stand out? And I think certainly those are unusual happenings that really, really shook things. So, or at the very least, got tons of people talking. So, is that alone a benefit? Yeah, I think so. And we're still talking about it. So,
yeah,
maybe they're a good thing.
Still playing out, right? The Code of Conduct is a living document. It's been modified once already. And Chrome OS Linux apps, like we just covered in the community news, getting GPU support now. So they're getting even more sophisticated. Both of these are kind of
and
at
it
the
played
beginning.
into your predictions too, right? You're expanding on that idea of Chrome OS running Linux apps to Fuchsia and things like that. So it's continuing for sure.
Yeah. All right. The other area that just saw rapid development and just blew up in 2018 is Proton. Steam Play. It just went from like here's 15 officially supported games to, oh, by the way, it's actually more like 2,000. You can actually play like 2,000 Windows games.
most of them work.
Wine is over 20 years old. It took us 25 years to get a handful of games. And then it took us, not us, it took Valve and the developers they're paying. It took them 3-4 months to get us 2,000. Like, it just exponentially expanded.
It is amazing. I mean, it's amazing in some sense, like how close we were. You know, there's a lot of fundamentals in Wine and the work that's been put in over the years to make this possible, and now we're actually reaping the benefits. And before, I mean, right, there were some games that worked, and you could do things, and if you really had all the right bottles set up. But I never recommended that to anyone. And now
No.
people who I was thinking about converting, I'll be like, well, here, look at this giant database of games you can play.
Yeah, and when you turn on Steam Play, you click the play button and it just launches, and it'll come up with a message saying, it's not optimized for this operating system or whatever. But even that's very vague. You don't really, you're like, well, I don't care, just play a damn game, and it works. It works. I've been playing the hell out of No Man's Sky in creative mode. They didn't have that the last time I played. The last time I jury rigged it under Wine, I got it working for like 2 months under Wine, and then it did an update because the game was so bad when it launched, and they did an update and it quit working under Wine, and I just kind of didn't bother. And now with Proton, well, let's try it again, and the game's way better than it was at launch. Now it's way more fun to play, so I've really liked that. And now that I have that GPU dock too, it's like, well, I got a GPU, might as well, I got a guy one.
Yeah, that's going to change the discussions too, right? You can point outsiders to this, people skeptical of, will this ever really work on Linux? It already does.
Yeah. I wonder if over 20...
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I remember on the Linux Action Show, was it a few years ago when you guys were in the wants, like, oh, crazy desires episode, you guys were saying,
Like
oh,
this
if
one.
only we had games, right? And now it's a normal thing. And
Yeah.
nobody's even... that's a huge success for sure.
All right, just a couple more quick ones to get us ready for our hope casting, because we've probably reflected on these enough. But the LVFS project getting official firmware support by a bunch of vendors.
Yeah, right at the start of the year, there were a couple, but now it feels like most in some quadrants.
Yeah, that is massive momentum that they're going to carry into 2019. And WireGuard. WireGuard is incredible. It's going to be a game changer for Linux. The hype, I know it's strong, but the reason why I say it is, if you use it, you'll know. When a VPN is as simple as key exchanges and upping and downing an interface, it becomes glue that will hold the internet together. It really will. And we've just seen it get so far in 2018. I feel like it's one of the underappreciated success stories of 2018 is WireGuard. It's not very often a new way to VPN comes
It all just went so well, it's almost sort of suspicious. It's like it just works, and everyone seems to like it. There's already commercial providers if you want that route.
I'm already using it, and it's so
You're
good.
using it?
It's so good. I'm using it from an iPad.
And you set it up. I mean, like,
Yeah, I know,
we
right?
did a couple of things, but
yeah, it's like, this isn't too bad. And then I got 2 more. So in order of, I think, just huge shocks to me. Seriously, Neon. KDE Neon took the year by storm. I watch their groups, the Telegram groups, and I pay attention to the Reddits, and been running it now for a while on a few of my machines, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a meta overlay or if it is a distribution. Some would argue it's not. I was talking with Simon Quigley in the Telegram channel, the jupiterbroadcasting.com/Telegram, and he was arguing that because it's really just a matter of scripts and continuous integration and then deploying on that basis, that it's not technically a distribution. And I was arguing that it still takes care and time to put that together, and when they transitioned from 1604 to 1804, that they worked on that and were very hands-on, and that makes it a distribution, even if they don't like it. But either way, their user base is huge now. Like, KDE Neon has a serious representation, and it's remarkable because in a lot of ways it's completely inappropriate for a lot of users. It's a way to use the latest and greatest Plasma desktop that maybe shouldn't be fully deployed yet. I don't know. I use it not on all my production systems. On my production systems, I use Kubuntu 1804, which to me is a better workstation distribution because it's LTS top to bottom.
Yeah, right. I mean, and on the desktop, when you get a new feature or something works slightly better, you're like, oh yay, change, fun, okay. And on your server or your workstation, you're like, oh no, I'm not ready to learn a new workflow. Or why would you change that setting I was using and relying on?
Mm-hmm. But it was Neon's year. I mean, they went huge in 2018.
It's surprising. You're right. It's surprising it works so well, but I think it speaks to that simplicity that we were talking about earlier. It's
and that 1804 base.
Yeah, a great base.
Yeah, that too helps. And then, lastly, you just can't get through 2018 without mentioning IBM buying Red Hat for $34 billion. That's sort of the biggest story of the year. And there's just no getting around that. Anything that sells for $34 billion is, if Red Hat sold for $2 billion, that would have been a big story, okay? $34 billion. And IBM, huge story. And there's just no getting around that. Like Brent said, I like Brent's perspective. Like, take a 5-year perspective, that's still a big story, right? In 5 years, that's still a big story.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, we haven't really even seen
No.
at all what the outcome of this is
No.
going to be.
No, it's not even early days isn't even fair. It's not even early days still. It'll be early days after the merger is approved and it's actually happened. Then it's early days. Like, we're like in the pre-show still. I look back at 2018, and that is, by the way, a super brief summation. We have, because of Linux Action News and this show, Joe and myself have been tracking stories, and you have been tracking stories relentlessly all year round. And this is like such a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of what's happened. The pace of development and major things happening. Like, I didn't even mention Microsoft buying GitHub, Like,
there's all sorts of stuff just on the cutting room floor right here.
So there's so much when you think about what's happened, guys. When you think about what Microsoft's done, about Red Hat, about Proton, about Meltdown, like, almost anything is possible in 2019, even as batshit crazy as Oracle GPLing ZFS. Could happen. Or Oracle could get bought by a company that open sources it. It could happen. So I thought, let's take some time and do our Hopecast for 2019. And I'll start with that one. I hope in 2019, Oracle just settles all of this shenanigans around ZFS and just open sources it properly and GPLs it. One of the things that's happening in the background right now is the Lumos, which is essentially the master upstream for ZFS, kinda. At least it is for FreeBSD and the BSD projects and a bunch of other stuff.
The repo where previously a lot of the main feature work for ZFS took place.
That's all transitioning now to be rebased off of the ZFS on Linux project. That will sort of be the master upstream project. We're going to get into more details in a future episode very soon with very specific information. But at a high level, that's a huge shift for the industry, just right there. Just sort of all the other projects realigning under the ZFS on Linux project. And it would just be the perfect solution. Like, they could own the market. Oracle's file system could dominate the entire market if they just GPL'd it and could get it mainlined into Linux. That's what my magic wand Hopecast is for 2019. I know it's boring, but it would change so many things. It would change so many things for Linux. It would be massive.
I have a question about that, Chris. What do you think would be their incentive to have it be run everywhere?
That's tough, and that's why I'm very skeptical. That's why it's in the magic wand section and not predictions. But you could ask that same question about a lot of the actions Microsoft has taken recently, and it usually takes several layers of analysis to really get to the root of how does Microsoft open sourcing XYZ benefit them. And you can usually work your way there, but you got to really think it through. And maybe there's something there we're not seeing yet with Oracle that they could. Maybe there's some advantage to having your file system be the number one enterprise file system. Maybe there's a way to make money from that, even if you're not selling licenses for it, because they're not making a ton of money on it right now. Everybody's just re-implementing the open source free version. They're using the ZFS on Linux, OpenZFS, or the Illumos version. There's not like a revenue stream that they'd be giving up on, other than people that are buying Unbreakable Linux, and all 5 of those people are not really going to make a big difference, I think. But I couldn't tell you what it would be. I don't know. What about you, Mr. Payne? You got any magic wand, Foo?
Yeah, okay. Yes, I do. If I could have something, I think it would be, well, I mean, there's many somethings, of course, but
I know.
how about this? And totally open source, commercially available touchpad that works with Linux of MacBook quality.
That could be integrated into laptops.
Yeah, right. I mean, just like a regular part that you could buy. The driver was solid.
Oh, that is such a great one.
It'd be a small change, but I mean, I use this darn thing every day,
and it's still not good enough.
No, I know. I mean, normally, actually, I'm don't hate touchpads, but this it actively
the problem we
gets
have
in my way.
Both of us on our ThinkPad, it's like detecting our hand fat. Even hovering over, I swear it hasn't made contact, and yet the cursor jumps halfway across my screen and highlights a whole paragraph of text and replaces it with whatever.
It stuck where it thinks it's like still pressed.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. No, it's not great. That's a really good one.
I really don't think it's going to happen, but I would love it.
Something with like an open source haptic engine in it. Maybe like a RISC-V processor or one of those new open source MIPS processors to do the management inside there. It could even be an Arduino, I suppose. You could go the keyboard EOS route. Something that could be integrated into a laptop or a standalone trackpad.
Oh, yeah, that could be fine, too.
That'd be really nice. I like that one a lot. What about you, Mumble Room? Anybody in the Mumble Room want to jump in with one of their hope casts? I hate the word, but I don't got anything better. I could start from the top and work our way down.
I don't think I've got a podcast, but agreeing with you on WireGuard, it is nice. Like, I've implemented some interesting stuff that does WAN stuff, like, you know. Yeah, just agreeing with you on the client of WireGuard, it's good.
I like that. All right, starting from the top, Brent.
I have a small one, a big one.
Go ahead.
If you will.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll start with the small one, and this is where you can have an effect. It also includes Linux Fast Northwest, actually. So one huge thing that I think everyone would benefit from, and I personally would absolutely love, if realistic, I'll put that in there, is to be able to listen live in real time to the shows being recorded. I think that'd be really awesome.
Oh, like the audio stream again. Get the audio stream working again.
Do you have that wand?
We actually are assembling that wand.
So the
right
audio
now.
stream was working at the last Linux Fest, but there were some delays last year, so it's like didn't really make sense. So either if you can cut that delay, or if anyways, if you need some help, I'm totally willing to help with that.
I feel like that's
and
something
if
that could
anybody else is willing to help, that I think that'd be really cool.
I feel like that could happen. That may be one magic wand.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. All right. So, is there another one I can help you with, or is that it? Is that where all my leverage is?
This is where Chris grants everyone's wishes.
I have many more, but I think one that's more sort of open source community, a little on the outlandish side, which is always fun to chat about, would be I know that GDPR sort of is encouraging services to open up data so you can share between services, so you can get in and out easily. I would love to see that for OSs. So to make it much easier to get people out of certain other OSs, say Apple, and into OSs like Linux. I try to help a lot of people do that, and the most frustrating part is getting their data out of their proprietary systems. So
Right.
that's a big one for me.
Like a standard export function that collects up the documents, the photos, your desktop icons,
Settings.
your settings, and puts them in like a easy to read file that any other operating system could then import, and then it would put the information where it's supposed to be in its relevant applications. It's crazy talk, and I like it. I think that.
Yeah, right. I mean, you could even have
Yeah.
make it easy. Like, oh yeah, these applications are installed. Here's where their data lives.
Yeah, that should be a thing. Just like Google Takeout.
Wouldn't that be great? And
Yeah.
even recommend, the hardest thing I've run into is trying to get even the simplest data out of iOS, for instance, like notes.
Yeah.
Is
Oh no, you're
crazy how
No.
difficult it is to get out in a just bulk export way. You can't even do it. So
That's the biggest problem is that
I
they
know
use that as a
they're
lock-in
not
technique.
incentivized to help you get out of there. But
Right. Yep.
well, yeah, that's it. So that's a crazy, outlandish hope that I would have to make the planet a better place.
I like that. All right. We'll keep. If you got more, hold on, and we'll come back around. What about you, Bruce? Do you have any wishes or hopes for 2019? If you could snap your fingers and make it happen.
Well, I didn't have too much time to think, but one thing that came to mind was something that might be in the crazy idea territory is a non-distribution specific public Linux repository of software.
Free software, sort of like old SourceForge, or
Well, no, you just like you normally have your apt-get and your Yum repositories connected to the distribution that you've chosen, but you like the EPEL kind of sort of thing where you subscribe to another repository, one that is just kind of universal. I'm not even sure it's a good idea, but this is what I come up with on short notice.
yeah, I like it though. I can see it.
I mean, really, part of that could be that one of those takes off because I feel like there are some of those things, and I guess in some ways you could think of snaps as those, but it's not quite the right fit.
Speaking of snaps, I'd love to hear what Popey's wish would be for
Hello.
2019.
The other thing that I was thinking of was just the hardware support thing of Linux. One thing that's a pet peeve of mine is when I go to the computer store and I look at a box and it says supports Linux or supports Windows and Mac.
Oh yeah.
And then I pull out my phone and I look and see if somebody else has managed to get this thing working. I wish hardware companies would at least check and see whether
Man.
their stuff worked in Linux
Oh,
and put it on the box.
You're reading one of my hopes. Yeah, I have one about that. If nobody else calls it, yeah, I agree. Some branding, some marketing. Just really quickly, that's mine. Just like an organized group comes together, like a moderately well-funded organized group could come together.
Yeah,
and
right.
do
You
some
hear like
marketing.
ads about like from the USB people, so we
Yeah.
we could have Linux ads.
The
What's
Darius-
that foundation doing?
Dude, the Dairy Association got milk. Like, if we could have our own got milk, it would make a huge difference.
Got uptime.
Got freedom.
Yeah, an interesting thing is like many of the new USB mouse and keyboard things that I get from the local like computer store thing, they have like, if you look on the back, it says supports Linux, and that's because I'm going to a big computer warehouse thing which sells to businesses and for sysadmins. Knowing a keyboard supports Linux is essential if they're buying a new keyboard for their server room or KVM switch. So yeah, it would be good to have that be more universal.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think my hope for this year is one of positivity. I would like to see us, and by us I mean the wider Linux community and people who are spectating and commenting on the Linux community. I wish we could focus on some of the positive things that happen and the new applications people are developing and new features and freedoms that people are enabled with free software, rather than focusing on all the drama. We have a tendency in the Linux community to eat ourselves alive, and the rest of the world looks on and makes us, thinks we're some kind of amateur hour idiots who just argue with each other constantly. And it'd be lovely if we could, count to 10, think, and maybe put out some positive messages rather than constantly making articles and YouTube videos about the biggest drama in Linux. It gets tiresome, and it doesn't get us any further forward.
It does get tiresome. And I'll also say this too: we really can't afford. We can't afford it. We can't afford all the. What'd you say? We're eating our own tails. We just eat ourselves. We are so far behind in market share when it comes to the desktop area and desktop adoption, and getting the market to even recognize it as a viable platform for even web applications and Unity games. That's where we're at still. We're getting better, but that's where we're at. And so anything that really is effort that isn't spent in fixing that, anytime we're spending effort on tearing each other down, even when we think it's super justified, like going back to that code of conduct thing, like everybody on both sides to that, even now as I say this, still feels like they were completely justified in their behavior and on their. But looking at it from the outside, in the rest of the industry, like a code of conduct is standard operating procedure and it's normal. And so while you can argue if that's good or bad, when they look at it, they see what we're doing and they go, "What the hell are they freaking out about? What is their problem?" And meanwhile, we're really not focused on the core issues and the core problems, and it really changes. It really changes things. So I completely back that up. And as much as we can, I hope we can contribute to that. I feel like we've been trying to, we try to walk the line. We don't want to come on. We don't want to come on here and sort of sugarcoat everything.
Right.
But
we also want things to talk about.
But also, and you guys know who watch the shows live, like we'll intentionally not run with a title that we think is extra clickbaity, even though like we'll even have the conversation many times. We'll say, "Hey, that title would definitely get us some clicks," but we're not going to use it, right? Like that happens all the time, and so it's a line you have to walk, and it sounds stupid, but we hope that in part it can be our contribution back, is trying to direct the conversation in a positive way as much as appropriate. So. I agree with that one, Popey, and I really do hope that one comes true. All right, Mr. Sean, if you had a magic wand, what would you change in open source this year now? Where's Sean? Where'd he go?
He's got the X lips there.
Oh, okay.
I think he might be muted. Maybe he's trying to talk.
Okay, maybe he's having audio issues. All right. Well, we'll make a note there, and then we'll come back around the top. Well, let's go back around the top. Brent, I think you said you had another one. You had another prediction, or actually, I guess let's not call it a prediction, but a hope.
Yeah, I mean, hope is an interesting word because you can just make up whatever you would like, or you can make it a little bit more realistic. And,
right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna move to the realistic side, maybe. But I think Wes touched on this a little bit, but just expanded it. I think an open source mobile OS that's actually usable for almost the everyday person would be really great. I know we're making strides towards that, and it's coming very slowly, and we have some cool projects working on it, but just to see it become a bit more mainstream would be a real treat.
If I could piggyback off that and again make it a little more real-ish.
Please do.
I would just say I wish for the Librem 5 to work out.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's a lot of skeptics, but it would be so great, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm one of them. I really am, but
yeah, this isn't. I'm not hoping for like a realistic hope. I'm hoping for like it's just great.
So yeah. I mean, if they could even within like, I mean, I'd be okay with like within the year if it was, I can make calls, I can look stuff up, maybe I can send some messages on Telegram or something, some real just basics, usable MVP style product. I'd be okay with that. That would be a success in my book. That would be a success, honestly. It wouldn't be ready to replace iOS or Android, but something that isn't crashy, that's usable,
something to build on,
and free would be a massive accomplishment. And it's weird to think it's within striking distance. It's possible. We'll just see. So I like that one, Brent.
You still sound so skeptic.
It's just, I think 2018 was also the year I kind of gave up on the idea that we're ever going to replace Coke and Pepsi. And it's like bumming me out a little bit because we've watched so many cool ideas over the years kind of go nowhere. So, it seems almost impossible at this point because there's so much. Even if you built a great operating system with good apps and great security features and a fully free hardware and software stack, nothing says it'll have any market success in any way that makes revenue. There's still nothing that says because the mobile market isn't a regular, products win on their merits market. It is a market where there's deals made, there's ecosystems, there's carriers, there's middlemen, salesmen. There's just so many factors at play that dictate success, and so many entrenched interests that want the current Android and iOS normal ecosystem to be the thing because that's what makes them money. Like, it's just those entrenched issues or those entrenched interests aren't really all that motivated to sell some new unheard of product by some company that has no brand. Nobody knows who Purism is. They know who Apple is. They know who HTC and Motorola is. But even the phones by those companies like LG and HTC,
there's already way too many phones to pick from. It makes it pretty hard to distinguish.
And they don't make any money. It's Apple and Samsung making money, right? And probably Googs, I don't know. But I just, whew. Yeah, Brent. I mean, that is a magic wand one, but oh man, am I right there with you?
All right. Well, I got something that's a little more down to earth if
Okay.
we want. Just something I think that actually could happen.
All right.
Last year saw that Fedora set up with Flickr-free Linux boot. I hope 2019 sees that just widespread.
Yeah.
It's a small thing, but it's just
So
it's
nice.
polish, right?
So nice. And I'll say too, I was thinking one of my hopes is that we finally finish off high DPI support.
Oh yes.
You
Come
know,
on.
you and I, towards the end of 2018, had an opportunity to buy new laptops, looked at it, and decided to go with 1080p screens. If they had 2K screens in these laptops, I would have gone with that. But they had 4K screen options. They probably would have been better screens, you know? But we just didn't want to fight with software issues, especially with some of the production software we use that isn't using like GTK3 or Qt, which maybe there's just nothing that can be done there. But I would love to see it because compared to the Mac, it's embarrassing.
Oh, it is.
Now, compared to Windows 10, we're doing all right. We're doing okay. But compared to the Mac, like the Mac has had quote unquote Retina support like since 2012 or something like that. They've had that locked in now for multiple releases of multiple operating systems, and they've iterated on multiple screen technologies in multiple laptops. They've destroyed their keyboards, but they nailed high DPI.
Yeah, you can only do so many things, Chris.
And I would love to see that. I'd love to see a Mac OS level high DPI, and you can get close. Like if you live all GTK3 or all Qt, or you're on elementary and you're installing all the elementary apps from the App Center, like you can get there. You can get there, but when you deviate out into applications that don't use the native
when you
toolkits,
take advantage of that open source diversity.
Yeah, that diversity we love so much, it does get a little wonky. And especially some of the more commercial applications. All right, well, does anybody else have a hope they want to toss into the mix before we wrap it up? One last time to get on the record for 2019, Bruce. You want to try?
Yeah, one thing I just came up with is I'd like to not have to fiddle with video drivers and just to be able to depend on them to do it there. I've always been an NVIDIA guy, but lately I've run into problems with that, and it's always been a sore point with me with Linux systems, just getting the video to behave and not to do flickery things and crash games and things like that. So I've been hoping that one for a long time, but that might be Magic Wand stuff too. It seems to be kind of like a one-arm bandit kind of thing, whether you get a setup that works flawlessly or not.
I like that one, especially for those out there that are trying to use the NVIDIA cards, because that is still an area where I have a little bit of issue. My Intel-only systems are so solid.
They're really solid.
They're literally the definition of zero hassle. It's so nice. I'll add on to that. I'll pile on. I'm going to say audio. And I have had really good luck since we switched to Plasma in 1804 in the studio. I have had really, really, really good systems. However, over the last couple of weeks, and especially today, I have had significant audio problems where when I open up Mumble or OBS, in Pulse Audio, it changes the input and output devices to just different devices, even in some cases, devices that are actually disabled. And my applications don't have audio. I could open up, say, a web browser and play a YouTube video just fine, but maybe that one application got the audio swapped. And there's other deficiencies, too, where Pulse Audio gets confused if you have multiple audio devices with the same exact name. We standardized on a couple of audio interfaces, so some systems have 3 audio interfaces plugged into them because we're doing multi-track recording and whatnot. And Pulse Audio will just kind of randomly mix them all up. So, one day you boot up in the drop-down, it's one unit, but the next day in the same drop-down, in the same slot in the drop-down, it's a totally different audio unit. And there's no way to tell them apart. So I'm really hopeful for Pipewire. I'm really hopeful that we finally nail this because, honestly, we were 15 minutes out from starting. I'm already on the live stream, and I can't talk to the Mumble Room because even though I've been using this computer literally all day since 9 a.m. nonstop, making shows with Wes because we're recording for some content while I'm gone. So we've been in the studio since 9 a.m. recording without issue. But then we close one application and open up another application, and the whole audio system's all screwing
We
up.
walked away for 20 minutes
Yeah.
and came back, and nothing worked.
We took a 20-minute break. And then across the table from me, a separate rig, same software stack, but we're using OBS instead of Mumble, same problem. And it's just the weirdest thing. And I just completely lose confidence in the equipment when that happens because we start having a weird audio issue on the audio stream, and now I don't know if it's something wrong with Pulse Audio, if it's something on the encoder. Like, I've lost confidence in the entire stack. And these are static systems that get minimal important critical updates and minimal reboots, except for about once a month. And
Yeah, right. I mean, that kind of
It's
plays
just kinda
into
bummer.
the Pipewire hope of,
That's my hope.
and kind of that's been the problem too with when we're talking about clear desktop and other things. It's hard. Sometimes a really good desktop operating system or some of the goals, the dynamic nature, the usability, make a pretty poor workstation, right? We didn't want things automatically changing because we want to set it up once.
And
but,
leave it.
But we also don't want to have to rip out Pulse and then put Jack in or do something complicated, right? That's a lot more work. So if we could have one system, just made it all work together.
All right, Brent. I think you got another one in there. We probably get this last couple of ones in there, so I'd love to hear what you got.
Sure. I was just wondering for your audio problem, it's not Brown Bear playing some New Year's tricks on you or anything, is it?
No, I don't think so, because if there's one thing he doesn't want me to do is rage quit using Linux. I don't think he wants that.
Yeah, right. So I have a JB related one.
Okay.
It's actually more of a question, and then a Dell related one.
All
So
right.
if we have time.
Sure.
So for JB, my question is, do you have any hopes for JB in the new year? There's been some major changes in 2018.
Oh.
Do you guys hope to see anything in 2019?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of really big, ambitious things. I haven't really thought about how much I want to talk about. That's a good question. Because we've been now that we're part of a larger company, companies plan, and they like set goals and stuff for like the next year. So, since early November, I've been flying back and forth to Texas quite a bit, meeting with the leadership team down there, and just kind of getting involved. I've taken on a larger role where I'm getting involved with other projects in the company, just advising. It's one of the reasons they wanted to bring me on is just for other skill sets that I have that don't really come out on mic, I guess. I don't know, maybe it's the hair. And that's been really interesting because it's given me a much broader perspective. It's given me insights into the larger industry as well. And I'll say in broad strokes, we want to do a lot more meetups that we could stream and have maybe an educational angle on them. I want to release some of the Linux Academy content for free to the community and then build study courses around them, or videos, not full courses. I probably shouldn't use the same language they use because they're not, it's our version of those things. They're not like the multi-month projects that the Linux Academy training architects go on.
But something to introduce you to that.
Something that we can contribute back. So I want to free some of that up and release some of that, and then use some resources to build videos around that as sort of a secondary thing to what we do now. But I want to grow our team a little bit, and I hope by the end of 2019, JB shows are like tap water. Like there's a release every single week, like clockwork, and we're really close. Like we almost never miss a week on any of our shows. But I want it to be universally true on all of our shows. That every week there's something there, even if it has to be a week where we do something. We say, hey, we don't have a regular episode for you, but and we just update you on what's going on and what to expect. So I want to get really good about that. Now that we've got a full-time team, I feel like there's really no reason we can't achieve that. So we nearly got there when we were all doing it on our own time, and now I feel like that we have a full-time team should be achievable. So I want us to be a very reliable podcast network that's releasing
great
on
content.
schedule.
Yeah, right for you guys.
And then this is the year, one way or another, that the website gets replaced. I have been done with the Jupiter Broadcasting website for 3 years, and now we're not even living in the same home anymore. Me and the website are not even speaking to each other anymore.
Oh, you make me be the intermediary.
Wes, will you tell the website that I want this show posted? That's true in a lot of ways.
Don't you love having a Wes?
So yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So replacing the website, and then obviously we have a couple of, I think, our most ambitious show ideas that we've ever done, and now we have more resources to pull some of those off. And I'm not talking like in production, but more like the hosts that'll be joining us, and that's really exciting. We could probably. I mean, we kind of teased it, what's happening on TechSnap. But TechSnap, for example, will be the first show that's seen some changes. Some shows aren't going to have anything change. Some shows are just like, really like our plans for this show are just mostly keep doing what we're doing and see if we just can't, always just
do
get
it better
at it. Yeah. But for TechSnap, we're going to replace me with Jim Salter, who is an author and writer over at Ars Technica, and he's also
previous TechSnap guest,
a WireGuard expert, and a sysadmin by trade. And he's going to be joining Wes, and they both have practical hands-on experience that's very current. They're both really sharp, and both have strong opinions about this stuff. And so we want to bring those style of hosts and quality to our show. So we want to really kind of raise the bar as much as we can in terms of production quality and host quality. And now we can afford to like buy remote recording kits and send them so people sound better and things like that. So we'll be doing more of that. But really, it's for us, it's sort of getting to just take the leash off and just go full bore at something that we've always wanted to be able to do, but never could quite pull it off. And now it's like, okay, well, let's pull this off and pull this off. We're trying to break it down into quarters so that way we don't overdo it and overbite. And
it's hard to decide, right? There's so many things. You're like, oh, we finally have some resource and time to do these things. What do we do first?
So we've got quarter one goals, and we're building the quarter two goals right now, and we're trying to think about things and what can we pull off. And we had a new person join our team today. I'm going to wait to announce her and talk about her until she can join us, but very excited about having her on. She's a course architect also at Linux Academy and involved in the Docker community, and super sharp, funny, nice, just great to work with. So we're able to grow the team a little bit and things like that. So those kinds of things I'm really looking forward to in 2019. And then just kind of seeing where this whole VP of community role takes it, because it's already inclusive of a lot more than I originally expected. And I think it's just kind of getting started because I'm a maniac. You know, they bought my company, and then I'm going to come in and take them over.
Yeah, that's right. From the inside. That's how we do.
And now, okay, so that was the JB one, but there was a second one there, Brent?
All right, sure. Yeah, so anyways, thanks for that answer. That was awesome. And all sounds great. The other one is a bit more maybe on point for what we're trying to do, and that's just I hope that Dell, instead of having their Linux laptop offering be a little bit hidden, I would love to see it offered on all of their machines on the website, anywhere.
Really more
So if you're looking
prominent
at
on the
any-
site.
Well, yeah, make it a standard option. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, if only we knew of some wizard that could, something like a Barton George style wizard.
Oh,
That could,
yes.
it's driven me so crazy what you're saying right now. It really makes me disappointed that they haven't fixed it by now, and I wonder if it's because they have such a tight relationship with Microsoft or what, or maybe they just feel that there's no reason to do it.
Maybe it'd be confusing for their customers or whatever else.
But you really wouldn't have a strong sense that they have some really solid Linux offerings. Of course, their website is hard.
It, right? Yeah, their website's not great.
They
so.
may have one of the worst websites in the computer industry. I mean, really, HP's got a bad one too, though. So it's
I find browsing their site, because just for a few different reasons, I actually found it very difficult to find the Linux offering, even though I knew it existed. You know,
Yeah.
so
just go to
for
Barton's
someone-
blog and then he'll link
Right.
you.
That's what I either go to Barton's blog or I Google search for Dell developer laptop. And
Yeah, that's exactly the only way to get there, right?
yeah, it's not good. And the fact that it hasn't been addressed is a little embarrassing at this point because it's a good product and it should.
It works really well. They're doing it well, and they
Yeah.
just won't let you have it.
No, but the word's getting out there. The word is getting out there about it. The folks at Linux Academy, that and the System 76 breaks too. People at Linux Academy are talking about trying out some.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's people find out even though it's not front and center. All right, well, you're on a roll, Brent. Anything else, or was that it? Was that your last one?
Yeah, I got one more fun one.
All
if you
right,
want.
let's do it.
Right.
It's another question for you. Do you have any hopes for Lady Jupes in 2019?
Oh,
you haven't
solar.
Really, no,
Solar, and I want to replace the batteries. I want to go full off grid, and then I don't think it's gonna happen in 2019. If I could really go crazy, I'd like to replace the really stupid old school sensors I have, like in the tanks and for like the propane sensors. I'd like to replace it with like Arduinos or Raspberry Pi or something that would give me a dashboard of like my tank levels and my fuel levels.
Oh, that would be neat.
Yeah, and the water heater and all that kind of stuff that has dumb switches and dumb toggle lights to tell me like, if they're working or not. And it's just contact leads that like generate an electrical signal back to an LED, right? So I know there's some way I could intercept that and have it feed into something. I know it's within my range to conceive of it, but like how to put it all together, I have no idea. And I'd love to address all of that stuff. But first, I got to get better batteries and solar.
I got one thing about to cast. I hope that if I'd imagine, I hope that there's enough backlash on MB close sourcing that thing that they'll change their mind. Like it's incredibly unlikely to happen, but I hope that will happen. Like if I'd Magic Wand, I'd make that happen. Also, so don't update the MB Android app if you want to use it with Jellything, because they've just broken support for that.
That's nice of them. Yeah, it's weird to
yes.
want to wish for backlash, but I do see where you're going with it.
Like, one thing that really annoys me is, again, they're doing this thing that companies have been doing recently, which is teaching consumers not to install update because it makes their products subjectively worse. Yes, I am in New Zealand. Sorry, just responding to the chat.
Oh, yeah, I completely think that'd be. Yeah, I don't know if I don't necessarily know if I want to wish backlash, but then the core
they
idea.
at least changed their mind.
Yeah,
The
reversing
core
that.
idea is they changed mind on that.
Yeah, I think that would be really good. I think
Like,
hopefully.
And again, they're teaching with the Android app thing and stuff like that. They're teaching users not to install updates. Again, that's a terrible thing. This was with the Harmony Hub and them disabling the local API, and so basically they're teaching companies starting to teach users not to install updates because they end up making their products objectively worse. I hate it when companies do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed hearing what everybody thinks, and I think a lot of us were kind of thinking along the same things. Everybody had another idea after somebody said something. I think that was some good stuff. I enjoyed it, and you know what just crossed my mind as we're wrapping up? Just looking forward, the next time I'm on this show, I'll be a married man again. Isn't that weird?
Wow.
That's weird. That is a weird starting 2019 out with a bang,
Congrats, that's awesome.
Thank you. It is very exciting. I hope everybody had a great New Year's. I hope you do have a great year. And if you'd like to get Hopecast in, I'm sorry for the name. If you got something better, I'd like that too.
There's no going back now.
LinuxUnplugged.com/contact. We could read a couple more.
Oh, yeah,
that'd
sure.
be fun. Get a couple good ones in here and read them. I'd love to hear yours. And maybe consider joining the show next week. I'll be out, so the guys could use a little extra coverage. Help the guys out. Show up and
Come join. It'll be plenty of fun.
Yeah, and then also go catch the last Ubuntu podcast, maybe ever.
You just don't know. That's
don't
the
know
thing.
yet.
You
We don't know
can't
yet.
know.
You can't know.
They don't know.
They don't know until they have the curry. UbuntuPodcast.org. The last season's episode is out now, and it was good.
I think technically there will definitely be 2 episodes next year because we've committed to doing one at
Foss-Talk.
Joe's event at Foss Talk, and we've made predictions for next year, so we've got to do one at least at the end of the
Got
year.
that one wrong. Got that one wrong. All right, very good.
It'll be very fast. Yeah.
Well, all right. I look forward to those 2 episodes at least. But something tells me we may see another season. Either way, UbuntuPodcast.org, and go check out what's coming to TechSnap. Very excited about those changes. TechSnap.system. Systems or system? Systems. System?
TechSnap.systems.
Systems. TechSnap.systems. See if you say it a few times, it might stick. And you can go to TechSnap.systems/subscribe to get that. We just did my final episode. That'll be going out later this week, where we kind of reviewed some of the crazy great trends we've seen.
Yeah, we'll talk about the things TechSnap's seen and
It's seen
where
a
it's
lot.
going to be going.
That show has seen a few things, Wes. That show has seen a few things. And you can find links to whatever we talk about, although there wasn't really much, but we do have the community news and things like that linked at linuxunplugged.com/282. But that does bring us to the end. We're back to our regular Bat Time and Bat channel. Tuesdays, you can go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get that converted in your local time zone and hang out in the Mumble Room. You join us there, tell us your thoughts, or the IRC room, always going during the show, always watching it. It's a really great community. Some of these people have been around for a very long time.
It's great.
Some folks are just showing up. They're new.
You're welcome. You could be next.
You definitely could. Thank you so much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at ChrisLES. He's at Wes Payne, the whole network at Jupiter Signal. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Unplugged program. Here's to a fantastic 2019. And the guys, not me, but the guys, we'll see you back here next Tuesday! Unplugged program. I just thought of another hope. I hope I get OpenHab, Home Assistant, something set up in Lady Jupes in
Let's do
2019. I think it's gonna happen probably early 2019. Really, I got that new Raspberry Pi. The whole thing with the kids, lukewarm. They like the Switches way more than they
Okay,
like.
so we've got the hardware. I've heard
Yeah.
the software might be free and open source.
I was a little so for people that don't know, I got the new Raspberry Pi that came out. You know, the smaller one that's a little cheaper, but like a lot worse, but not too worse. So like this will run RetroPie just fine. And I looked it up first, and yeah, everybody's saying it's gonna run RetroPie just fine. Super proud of myself. Got a case, so we assembled it like Legos. That was fine. Then we got all hooked up, and I got the CRT television. Right?
Oh yeah.
So backstory, I bought a CRT television. But anyways, I'm like, well, let's go hook it up because you're gonna have a whole day at work with Dad on this is on Monday, and because they're out of school, and I'm doing coder, so why not bring the kids, right?
Yeah, right. You got some games for them. Woo.
I go up there after thinking, well, this will keep them busy for an hour. Within 10 minutes, they turned it off and instead busted out the Legos and decided to build like a Lego castle around the TV. And I mean, it looks cool, but they just were like not interested at all.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
disappointing.
if it's not Mario, they're out. So the RetroPie experiment didn't go well. So now we have a free Raspberry Pi to use for our Home Assistant or Home Bridge or whatever we want to use.
We'll see how many we can set up on one machine.
The whole chat room wants me to talk about this this Ethan tweet where there has been a real I guess you call it a tweet storm. I don't know what you call it. There's been a lot of upset on Twitter today because someone named Ethan, not Ethan from H3, but a different Ethan, a game developer, tweeted out a very poignant picture of how game developers will claim that Linux is too niche, but meanwhile they're building apps for Fire TV, Tizen, Apple Watch, the NVIDIA Shield, the Jump device. And there's so many. There's so many more. We all know that all these crazy devices that people will make their games for, their applications for, but Linux, it's too niche. And man, did that not just kick off the biggest back and forth between developers who claim that Linux is horrible to write for, and others say that Linux is the only one they can stand writing for. And it's all over Twitter today. It's kind of a thing. It's if you just go to Twitter today and search for Linux, that's all anybody's talking about. Everybody's really upset. And I don't have anything to make them feel better. There's nothing you can say. Oh, we gotta pick a title too.
Oh, yes, we do. jbtitles.com. Go make some suggestions.
I gotta say, today's episode was way better than yesterday's episode.
Yeah. If not, then we're doing something really, really wrong.
That's
yeah,
true.
really.
That's true.
There were definitely people here, but not much content.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't even think about
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we did try to warn people, but it's hard to really, when it's been the same time, same day for so long.
Yeah.
It's like it's routine.
It's almost instinctual.
But we'll be back
Yeah.
at our regular.
That's totally my fault. I was in holiday mode until about yesterday, and then sat here for a little bit and thought, oh, there's nothing happening. And then this morning, my phone dinged and said, oh, hey, it's LUP today. And I was like, oh yeah, the time change. So I'm taking full responsibility, but just glad to see all of you guys today.
Yeah, I'm glad you made it. I think it was a good episode.
I
enjoyed
think
it.
so.
I always like. I don't know. For me, I like doing those because it's like this is what's been bugging me, and I'd really like this to get fixed.
Yeah, well, I mean, like a lot of this, it's about the community and like we're the community. We're talking about the things that we care about in the operating system that we love.
So what do we call this thing? Make a wish.
Yeah, avoid the word Hopecast.
Make a wish. Unplugged magic wand.
It's not bad.
What do you get when you search for magic wand? What do you get? I want to make sure that like we're not getting, you know what I mean? Like we could be getting something else that comes up, and we might not want that. I don't know.
That is,
Is that a problem? Is that a?
yeah. I mean, there's several hand massagers, back massagers.
What if you What if you log out? What if you do it? What if you do?
Oh, this was in. Don't worry, this was incognito.
Oh, you already thought of that.
Yeah. Oh
yeah. Clever boy. Oh man. Well, 2019 and beyond. That's not too bad, Brent. That's not too bad. Not too bad. Not too shabby.
Not the worst. Not the worst.
If it's not Mario, they don't care. They just don't care.
Not even like retro Mario.
Oh yeah, Retro Mario's okay. Retro Mario's all right. And I got one of those hacked Mario ROMs. I didn't even know this was a thing until recently. So I got a hacked version. Is what they call it. That's not my verbiage. A hacked version of
Just
Mario.
Get your crazy hacker lingo.
I
Chris.
know. And it is really good. That hacked. I showed it to you, right? Yeah, I did. I think so.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
That was actually fun.
Yeah.
And it's difficult.
Yeah, it is. Although, it turns out Mario is a little challenging.
it
It's
is.
just when you're so used to it. Like when you've played those levels and you kind of have the muscle memory, it's not so bad. But watching the kids play it, it's like, oh, God.
Hey, can you use that extra
Heck of a
pie as
go.
like a self-driving plugin for Lady Jubes?
That'd be awesome. I would actually be really nice. I feel like that's where they should have it first, is big trucks and RVs. You got,
You're saying heck you letting go. I'm gonna pose all your script kiddies. That is horribly dated.
yeah, I know.
I think it was literally dated before I was born. Like,
Boop ba doo boo, boop ba doo. Oh. Can't help it though. It gets stuck in my head. The music's very catchy.
Yeah, isn't that true?
All right, I'm exporting out, but we still don't have a title. So we're like, one thing's accomplished, but the most important thing is the name. We don't have yet. Linux native. Linux looking into 2019. Looking into 2019. That's good for the predictions one, probably.
Yeah, true.
No, I don't think I have Indiegogo. I don't think I have.
Setting up for disappointment.
If I could change one thing,
Oh yeah, that could be. If I could change one thing.
if it was a YouTube title, it would be if I could change one thing in Linux, or it would be like top 3 things to change in Linux. The YouTube thing is getting. I know I get on and on about YouTube, and I try not to do it in the show anymore. But now we're just hanging out. It's getting.
This is the complaining about YouTube live stream.
It really is getting to be. Yeah, where we sound like chipmunks too, to really give us that extra level of credibility.
And poppin', don't forget that part.
Maybe I'll just. You guys know how I feel. It's just.
Sad.
It is because it's not getting better. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. So it is what it is.
I just realised for the next 3 months, a bunch of people are going to be filling out 2018 on official forms.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah,
if we
just-
don't. In fact, I better make sure our encoding presets are updated to update the ID3 tag to 2019.
Yeah, gotta remind you of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, but still, we gotta name this thing. I kind of like. I mean, we could go with Brent's 2019 and beyond.
It's a little
The
Star
most
Trek nod for
popular
you.
Currently, for the votes is 8 == D.
Oh yeah, the D. Yeah, but this isn't a System D episode. That's what we save. We save the dick titles for System D episodes, obviously. I guess I probably don't.
How did I not see that?
I guess I probably don't need to update Unfilter's ID3 tag. I
No,
suppose
probably
that's-
not.
That's probably not.
I mean, if you just want to be a little,
Too soon.
get your nostalgia on.
Too soon. But Coder. Extended metadata 2019. What do you think, Wes?
I think that you should have a way to do that automatically.
You would think that, and you would be right.
That's such a Wes answer.
It is.
I feel like
It
he's,
is. It always is where his mind goes. How can we automate this? How can we scale this? How do we never have to do this again? That's a good thing to think of, though, because God knows there's so many processes that I should have asked that 5 years ago or more, and I haven't. So it's a good question to ask.
I feel like Wes is a really slick sort of Seattle version of Data.
Ooh, I like that. Yes, accept it.
Maybe with an emotion chip too. And
there you go.
And
2019 version.
doesn't have the white skin. Well, I mean, kind of does, but not the white skin. Actually, I guess his skin was kind of yellow, but on camera it comes across as very white. Just like Spock is supposed to be a little green, but doesn't really look it on camera.
No.
Yeah, it's true. They put green makeup on that guy. That's true.
So
I would
then,
argue that Wes's conversational skills are actually quite good compared to Data's. Just saying.
Ouch. I mean, Data got kind of good there towards the end.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
you know. What about your singing? because Data also became a good singer.
I also like to dress up as Sherlock Holmes, so you know we're basically the same.
Can we see that?
Yeah,
baby.
yeah.
We need some good mysteries to solve.
Riser of I was thinking about a Riser. I mean, we have Riser resolutions. Riser FS back from the dead. Wishing upon a kernel.
Kind of alludes to something without saying it.
Yeah.
In fact, if you said Riser back from the dead, that might be.
Yikes.
Oh God.
And of course, I go on about not having clickbaity titles in the show. Damn it.
Yeah. Respectful coverage. Mature.
Yeah. His wife might be dead, but the file system's not.
That is just quite the title.
It's classy is what that is.
Hashtag Linux journalism.
Don't know. Boy, wouldn't it be great if like something really awful happened to YouTube and it just didn't become a very viable platform for people anymore, and like we just had to spread out and the market could open up again, and you could have open source, you could video services, you could have proprietary commercial video services. Like it just be if something awful happened to YouTube that made it bad for content creators, it'd be really good for Linux. Also, if our Linux burned to the ground, that'd be really good for Linux too. You know, even when I go there, I know that it doesn't represent the view of the community,
right?
But I find myself thinking that it does. Like, I'm like, oh man, is that? Oh wait, no. This is just a niche of the community, and it's maybe one of the more aggressive ones. It's like, or negative ones. It's like, I even having been like, I've been around since that subreddit was formed. Like, I remember when our Linux was new, and I remember like before there was Reddit. Remember Dig? Like, I remember all of that, right? And so to be around on the internet for quite a while and still have this mental hurdle that I have to like go over every time, I don't know. I really worry about the damage and a perceived, the perception that place creates for the Linux community is what I'm trying to say. Is I really worry about the damage to the perception of the Linux community. I know the YouTube thing and the Reddit thing are my old go-to things, but
they're both main problems, and they're huge platforms.
I feel like the reason why I talk about it so much is because people undervalue the political. What's like the tone setting. Like I don't know what to call it. Maybe it's if I could put this into better words, I could get better at this. But my words are hard tonight. I've used them all up. I've been recording all day. What was I gonna say? If I could, if there was a way to measure the perception damage, then maybe we'd all sit around and go, wow, look at this. They've caused a 25% damage in the last month to Linux's reputation. And we'd be like, oh, fuck, this is horrible. We got to get rid of it. But there's no way to do that. You can't measure the damage to a reputation of a community or the perception of a community. The only way you can really measure it is by observation over a long period of time. And the more data I collect, the more data it suggests to me that the revenue model of YouTube and sort of the audience that Reddit has attracted in our Linux, however you want to describe it, are both, I think, very bad. Like in the past, open source communities would be spread across special interests. So you'd have forums like the canonical or the Ubuntu community forums or the Arch forums or the Gentoo forums.
Yeah, right.
You didn't have like these general organizing places where there's not like a clear thing that everybody's there for. Like Linux, but there's a lot of different kinds of users for Linux.
Yeah, that's so broad.
And so you have a large social group that's just all hanging out in an area waiting for a cause to really get psyched about, right? And they're really waiting for something to get psyched about and get upset about or angry about or really, really hyped about, really happy, like good things too, right? It's all of the above. And because they got no purpose otherwise. Why else are they there? That's why they're there. They're there to kill time and have something to do. And so they're all looking for something, and they jump on it. And people lose perspective. They forget there's human beings behind the screens. I go on and on about this all the time.
I'd like to ask to all of you, where would you suggest as a better source to get a more accurate tap on the community?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the answer that we have. Yeah. But I was literally thinking this morning, it popped into my head while I was laying in bed, wondering what I shouldn't be doing today. But I was thinking about the LAN Reddit subreddit that we used to have.
Oh, Linux
that was
actually
show?
Yeah, last.
Sorry.
Yeah, but even once that got above 10,000, it started to get pretty shitty.
Yeah, what I enjoyed about it was that it felt a little bit more like the community that we have here online.
Yeah. Yeah,
and on air.
it was
but,
nice to have one really large organizing spot. It didn't, but also see that kind of, in an interesting way, that was a microcosm of the same problem. Is people took what was happening in the subreddit as the overall JB community.
Right.
And the reality is, the community really is the people that download the shows.
Yeah.
Which is hundreds of thousands of people, and it's not properly represented in that 10,000 person subreddit. But because it is a public forum that is highly accessible, it sort of is, it's, I think, human nature. You go in there, you think, well, this is how the JB community feels about this stuff. And that's why we did that little experiment towards the end of last, where we tracked the feedback from all the different sources and put it all in a spreadsheet. And then we could easily, when you did that, when you had all the different input mechanisms that people had to get into the show at that time, Telegram, Twitter, email, YouTube comments, Reddit comments, et cetera, et cetera. It was an obvious tonal difference. It's just a massive tonal difference. And you could really start to see a broader representation of the entire community when you put it all next to each other. But when you just look at the Reddit channel or the YouTube channel, it's like overwhelmingly one direction. And that effect is happening to Linux on a wider scale. And maybe I care about it because I watched it happen to me. I watched our community, specifically in the Reddit, go from talking about LAS to talking about the guys that were doing LAS. They weren't talking to me anymore. They were talking about me. Not this is, I really think what Chris said was wrong, or I really think what Chris said was right, but what that guy said was wrong, or what he said is right, or why are they doing this? Why did they do that? And we became this abstracted thing that we no longer were having a one-to-one conversation. It became a group of people talking about me and about the things I make and about the things JB makes, which creates this weird disconnected dynamic where people are a lot more critical because you're a concept. You're no longer a person. And so I think maybe having gone through that, I can see it. I can see how our Linux, it does it on a wider scale to the entire community. Like it creates that same effect where you go in there and it's people talking about the projects and talking about the open source developers and talking about the distributions, not talking to them. And it's that same kind of detached conversation happening at 100,000 person scale. And then it's that same very public forum where it's easy to get to and it's got topical conversations happening about things that are going on that day. So it's very, very easy to perceive that as how the Linux community feels about the code of conduct, or how the Linux community feels about, anything, Arch, anything, right? So, and I think having gone through it myself, have an appreciation for the damage it does. Maybe that's why I talk about it so much.
Yeah, that would make sense. It is funny, like, we say the community a lot, and what do we mean, right? We do not often add a definition for that. And for small subreddits, yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But like you even see even in smaller ones, and like especially for advocacy, when you see a lot of experienced users debating something, it makes me just be like, well, why would I want to use this if this is also unclear and broken?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like might have problems, but we aren't saying like you can't go install HTML4 and have a great experience.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Chris, are you seeing the same sort of effects happening in the Telegram groups?
Not really. No. People talk directly to me in the Telegram group. I wonder if it was a 10,000 user Telegram group. And it seems like around, when you get into multiple thousands is when it starts to go south, because the network effect of that brings other people in that aren't already listeners or whatever, and so they're not familiar with the work, and so then they start talking about it in the abstract.
There's also more immediacy in the Telegram group. It doesn't hang around for a while. I mean, you can't go back and review it.
Right.
But who does?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was so I've gauged my opinion changing about the Mumble space, actually. So when I first got connected to it, I thought, geez, we should make this as easy as possible for everyone to connect to it. But then I think there's actually a value in barrier to entry, because you sort of weed out the people that are just going to cause problems or be maybe a little bit less the type of group that you want here. So
yeah, you do wonder,
thoughts?
right? I mean, I look at this show as a crazy ass experiment. Think about it, right? We sit down. This is so stupid. What we do is ridiculous.
Shouldn't work at all.
For 200 plus weeks, 280 weeks, we've sat down live with no censor, no dump, and we open up a open source application and connect to a publicly available Mumble server on the internet that anyone could connect to and come in and shit in the middle of our show. And it's literally never happened. Now that I've
when
said
you put
that,
it that way, it sounds ridiculous.
yeah, and now that I've said that, I should knock on wood because now it's obviously going to happen. But that's amazing, right? I mean, how is that possible? Like, if I came to you as a concept and I said, "Hey, Brent, let's do a podcast where we let anyone come on and say anything they want, and we'll just have an open server. As long as they have a mic that works, we'll bring them on the air, and we'll do that, and we'll do it for 280 weeks, and we won't have a single issue."
Yeah, I think it speaks to also to the quality of the community of people that you're attracting. You know, for the most part, they're people who actually care about the content you're putting out and want to contribute to it.
Yeah, maybe I should take it as a badge of honor that
No, it's a
our
huge
Linux,
nod. For
our
sure.
Linux hates us and I don't like them. Maybe I should consider that. I don't like YouTube. Maybe it's all badge of honor now. My war
It's okay
scars.
to divert from them, I think, is what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
But also just the number of steps that you have to go through to get connected here, and then also you can be banned
Right.
pretty immediately is keeps the people who actually care
Yeah,
talking
and
and keeps
really,
people who
like you
don't
said,
care.
the barrier of entry, like even just how you install Mumble and get it working with your audio setup.
Yeah, it's
kinda-
not that easy, right? But you have to be willing to jump through a few hoops to share what you care about and what you talk about. So that has been working. Something about that has been working here, and you shouldn't change it. Which is totally different than my opinion when I was, the first time I got connected here was like, oh, geez, wouldn't
Yeah.
it be great if we had like 100 people in the Mumble room? But now I'm thinking, maybe not actually, right? You want the Popies and the Wimpies and stuff to rise to the top, and not just a big 10,000 people connecting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When you make the barrier to entry very, very low, like, for example, a support IRC channel, people will just abuse it. We get so much abuse on Ubuntu IRC, and it's got thousands of people in it, and there's a bunch of moderators, but someone jumps in at any time of the day or night and can just cause havoc and troll and waste people's time. And we used to get orchestrated attacks, like there was an Arch Linux Forums IRC channel, and they would sit in there and say, right, let's go and screw with the Ubuntu people, and they'd plan an orchestrated attack where one person would join hash Ubuntu, ask stupid questions, and then when that person got banned, other people would join and then join the ops group and support them and say, hey, no, they weren't doing anything wrong, and just waste the Ubuntu ops time. It was so frustrating and so damaging, and that's why one of the reasons why I'm so keen that 2019 we try and be a little bit more positive. But the problem is that there are always people out there. There are always dicks out there who just want to screw with people, and they just will.
They're broken inside a little bit and they're bored.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty
It's
much.
also easier to screw with people than it is to actually make a meaningful contribution, right?
That's
Right.
true. Yeah. Well, what do you guys think about wishing upon a kernel? It's cutesy, but it's not clickbaity, and it doesn't have hope casting in it.
We didn't mention
Anything to do with the kernel? Nope.
at all, but
Nope. It's just for the.
other than that, it seems great.
It's just for the.
You did
cutesy
with
factor.
WireGuard a little tiny bit.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
all right. Sure, let's go with that. All right.
I should have said I hope the kernel switches to a Chrome style version number.
Oh man. Oh, what if the kernel switches to a continuous deployment where it self updates? Could you imagine a self
Just
updating
pulls
Linux
right
kernel?
from Linus's
Linus's
tree.
branch, yeah.
Weird.
I think that'd be awesome and crazy and crazy. Although I kind of have a live updating kernel right now on this box. This is a live. This has live patch on it. Yeah. All right, guys.
There are humans in the loop there, though.
That's true. That is true. Not like that Neon distribution run by robots. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. Thank you for joining us. And
Total pleasure.
hope. Well, I don't think I'll be on the next one, but I think I'll listen. So I hope to hear you on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening.
Sounds like a perfect sort of romantic adventure trip
Mhm.
thing to do.
Tuning in and listening live while
Yep.
I drive down the road. Yep.
Good luck with the wedding and honeymoon and everything.
Thank you, sir.
Look forward to seeing you when you get back.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, have a great time. That sounds awesome, and some personal time is always great. And you chose a pretty great lady too.
Thank you. All right, guys, have a good one. Okay, chat room, time for us to get. And I'm not quite sure. Ooh, hi there. I don't think anything changes now. We have a new fancy scale engine, multi-streaming, multi-bitrate setup, which is why I think maybe we were having some YouTube audio issues today. But I'll kick it back over to the reruns. And if you're watching on the YouTube stream over the next few minutes, you may see it stop or start as I play around with it, try to get that working, trying to get the audio fixed. But turns out, in order to troubleshoot it, I need to listen to my own stream, which means I need to stop talking on that stream and play reruns so that way I can then troubleshoot it. Make sense?
So enjoy the slightly broken rerun.
Yeah. Unless you're watching anywhere else, then it should be fine, I suppose. But yeah. Anyways, also, live show tomorrow. Going to be doing Coda Radio at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow on the JB live stream. So if you would like one more live show, there is one more before I hit the road, and that is Coda Radio. So I hope to see you there. All right? Say goodbye, Wes.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for being here. And remember, I still had, that's what I need to do for 2019. Is I need to come up with my own spay and neuter your pets, because that's Bob Barker's. But in the meantime, remember to spay and neuter your pets. I mean, it is important advice.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, we don't need them humping other animals. We got enough animals.
But yeah, check them out in Sainsbury's anyway, in the sausage area.
I'm going to go and check out the sausage area. Anything.
It's the first thing I do when I get to Sainsbury's. User Error 55. I'm Joe.
I'm Alan.
I'm Dan.
And we're back. And don't forget about the forum, which is at community.error.show. Some of the stuff today comes from there. You can have a chat with people. There's some interesting conversations going on over there. So yeah, do check that out. Sign up and submit your hashtag Ask Error questions. You can do that on Twitter and Telegram and stuff as well. And you can email us. Well, let's start with a hashtag Ask Error then. It won't be long before self-driving car sounds as ridiculous as horseless carriage. What do you think they'll be called?
If history tells us anything, it'll be some brand name. It'll be like, it'll just be an Uber or a Lyft or, like Kleenex, right? Like, you don't say you get a facial tissue, it's a Kleenex, right? So whoever is like the ubiquitous self-driving car brand, like that's what people will call it.
Oh, hang on. Are you saying what the new thing will be called or what the old thing will be called?
I'm saying what cars that drive themselves will be called.
Huh. I was thinking, what will people call the cars from the past? Those old stupid things that you actually had to sit in and manually fiddle around with a gear stick and turn a big steering wheel. That was just ludicrous. Who would have done that? Right.
Like snail mail or
yes,
whatever.
Exactly. Yes, precisely.
I hadn't thought of that. So you think they'll just be called cars and then old school cars will just be called old school cars or something?
Suicide boxes. Death traps.
Yeah, totally. I think the name will go along with the new technology and people will just call it a car or... Yeah, I think they might call it an Uber or whatever brand has it. But I think the thing will get renamed as the old thing.
So about 2 years ago on Christmas Day, I published a post on my blog entitled "Lying to Children is Never Okay, Even About Santa." And in this slightly tongue-in-cheek blog post, I talked about how the downfall of Western civilization will be brought about by this lie that all parents tell their children. Now, when I found out that Father Christmas or Santa was not real, I was not very pleased about that I'd been lied to by my parents. Apparently that makes me a bit strange. And apparently even bringing this whole thing up makes me a bit strange. So, I don't know, I wanted to talk to you two about it. Popey, you've got kids. They are too old to believe in Santa by now. Presumably you did lie to them about it when they were young.
Yeah, we totally did the whole plate with a mince pie and a carrot on it and a thing of whiskey by the fireplace on Christmas Eve. I've got videos of us, setting it all up with them. And you know, it's part of that magic to get them to go to bed, and you know, and it's part of the whole human nature of lying to people in order to get them to do what you want them to do. Like, it's no different than governments and religions. Like, it's just that on a smaller scale. It's no different at all. They all lie to the people beneath them in order to get them to do what they want. And I want my children to be good, so I lie to them and tell them that Father Christmas won't bring them any presents if they're not good. It is as simple as that. It's just a coercion, but it's a group lie. So it's a thing that you and other parents know you lie about, and you all do it, and that makes it okay.
I don't know. I think that we simplify things for kids, right? Like, the world is too complex for them to comprehend. And so we have to prevent them with simple models that they understand. And something like the myth of Santa Claus is easy for kids to get.
That's an incredibly patronizing view, that the world is too simple for children.
Have you not met children? They're idiots. They're clumsy. They don't know where to put food. They drop stuff, and they don't know how to speak properly. They're idiots until they're like 10 plus years old. And so they need to be helped in order to get through life. Otherwise, they'd end up killing themselves on something if we didn't look after them.
Right, yeah, that is true. Okay, fair enough. But why do you need to lie to them about this thing? Why can't you just say, if you're not good, then I'm not buying you a Nintendo Switch for Christmas?
You can do that. That is entirely possible.
Why not?
Because it's quite nice to have the whole Father Christmas thing. It's actually quite fun and builds excitement and makes them think that actually that it's not just a case of this is also a religious thing. He's watching you, you know. They can see you doing what you're doing, and when you're doing it badly, he will know, and you won't get your present. Whereas if I say, if you don't tidy your room, or you don't, do all the right things, I won't buy you a present, then, well, he didn't see me, so that's okay. He knows I'm not in the room. I can't see him all the time. Whereas, all-seeing eye of Father Christmas and his elves, or whatever stupid story you spin, like God or whatever, can see you.
But that is not an acceptable answer, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Like, aren't we supposed to be trying to get away from stories like God? And, how isn't truth valuable enough that we don't want to lie to children and make them grow up thinking that lying is okay?
We do this in school too, right? Like, a lot of concepts are way too complex for children, and we have to simplify them to the point where we tell them things that aren't necessarily true so they can kind of grasp the idea. And then when they get to the next level up, we tell them, okay, this is actually how it works. And then we do it again. Okay, this is actually how it works this time, right? Like, we do that all the time with all kinds of things.
That's not a lie, though, is it? That's more of a metaphor. Like, the obvious one is, I don't know, the nature of reality, matter and stuff, how you have this, orbital idea of electrons around the nucleus of the atom, which is just complete bollocks. That's not at all what it's like, but it's a handy visualization of that.
I don't think you need to go down to the atomic level. It's just as simple as when their puppy dies. Like, what happened to the puppy? Oh, he's in a better place. You calm them down, because if you actually said to them, no, he's no longer conscious, he's dead. Like, he has ceased to be. It's a hard concept to grasp, death, for a 5-6-year-old child. And so often they are lied to, and they're told, no, it's gone to heaven, or it's gone to a better place, doggy heaven, or he's with his brother, the other dog who died last year. Whatever story you spin in order to make it easier on them, because it's pretty brutal to hear, I would imagine, a 5-6-year-old that, no, that dog is dead and that's it, end of life. Well, extrapolate. Is that what happened to Nan? Is that what happened to my uncle? Is that what will happen to me? Will I just cease to exist one day? Yep, that's it. Suck it up, son.
Well, yeah, then it'd toughen them up, wouldn't it?
A 5-year-old. Yeah. Get a grip, Joe. I know you play the part of being a prick that doesn't like children, but come on. They are actually human beings. You can't treat them like that.
Why not?
Because it's brutal. It's a horrible thought to have. It's bad enough when you're an adult to think that, do you know what?
But I can tell you that with the parameters are evolving quickly, and if your answer is negative today, it may not remain so for long as more providers come up and you can distribute your traffic around such that no one company can eavesdrop on it. Within a year or two, running DNS over TLS may very well be the rule rather than the experimental exception.
Yeah, and that's good for everyone because we live a little bit more secure. All right, great article here. Next up, we have upgrading OpenBSD with Ansible over at changeown.me, the cute pieces of OpenBSD evangelism blog. It starts with, a few months ago, I needed software that had just hit the ports tree. I didn't want to wait for the next release, so I upgraded my router to use Current. Since then, I've continued running Current, which means upgrading to a newer snapshot every so often. Running Current is great, but the process of updating to a newer snapshot was cumbersome. Initially, I had to plug in a serial cable and then reboot into bsd.rd, hit enter 10 times, then...
And she'll never forgive them now. We had a question on the forum that pretty much boiled down to, do new users still need to learn how to use the command line? And so I thought I'd ask you guys. Dan, I know that you in Elementary OS very much strive so that people don't have to use the command line.
I'll prepare the special version of bsd.rd, boot on bsd.rd, and do something like wash the dishes in the meantime. After about 10 minutes, I would dry my hands and then go back to my workstation to see whether the bsd.rd part had finished so I could run sysmerge and package add, and then return to the dishes while it upgraded packages. The dry your hands part in between is important. Yeah. Okay, so out of laziness, I thought I should automate this, and that's typically, where it all starts. But what happens instead is that I simply didn't upgrade that machine very often. Yes, laziness. With my router out of commission, life is very dull because it is my gateway to the internet. Even services hosted at my place, like my Mastodon instance, are not reachable when the router is down because I use multiple VLANs, so I need the router to jump across VLANs. There goes the Ansible reboot module. I recently got a new job, and one of my first tasks was auditing the Ansible roles written by my predecessors. In one role, the machine rebooted and they used the wait_for_connection module to wait for it to come back up. Yeah, that pretty much waits with the execution in the playbook until a connection is again available, or a port, and then it continues. So that sounded quite hackish to me, so out of curiosity, I tried to determine whether there was a better way. I also thought I might be able to use something similar to further automate my OpenBSD upgrades, and wanted to assess the cleanliness of this method. I learned that with the then upcoming 2.7 Ansible release, a proper reboot module would be included. I went to the docs, which stated that for a certain parameter, you can find the details in the show notes here. On Linux and macOS, this is converted to minutes and rounded down. If less than 60, it will be set to 0. And on Solaris and FreeBSD, this will be seconds. Okay. I took this to mean that there was no support for OpenBSD. I looked at the code, and indeed, there was not. However, I believed that it wouldn't be too hard to add it. I added the missing pieces for OpenBSD, tested it on my poor Pine 64, and then submitted it upstream. After a quick back and forth, the module's author merged it into Devel. Having a friend working at Red Hat helped them process. Mercy, Cyril. A couple days later, the release engineer...
Some breaks, what do you do then?
Well, exactly. The first thing I would do is install the terminal via the GUI software center or whatever it's called. But do new users? I don't know. I mean, I think about my mum as the sort of classic case. She had never really used computers much, and she wanted a laptop, and I said, well, we'll leave the Windows partition, but I'll install Ubuntu on it, obviously, and see how you get along with that. And if you can't hack it, then you've always got the Windows partition. And she has just never looked back, and she's just totally comfortable with it now. She doesn't do much apart from open a web browser, but at the same time, all the updates and everything just pops up. She just clicks OK, and it just does it. That said, I am on hand at the end of the phone, and I've almost had to talk her through stuff on the terminal, but I just decided, no, it's just going to have to wait, or I'm just going to have to go around there and sort it out. And so I have had to use the terminal, I think, on her machine. So maybe it is a good idea that new users at least know it's there and know some very basic things about it.
I think the hard trap you get into with using terminal as a support line, though, is that, and we experience this all the time, where users will Google up some stuff, and then they'll see some directions for terminal commands somewhere that tell them to do things that are really destructive, or have them.
And because if I cared about speed, I wouldn't use this weak computer with its dying SD card. For this case, I just comment out the path _sets variable in Ansible, and Ansible instead creates an answer file that will instruct the installer to fetch the sets from the designated mirror. I've been archiving my kernels for a few years. It's a nice way to fill up / keep history of my upgrades. If I spot a regression, actually, I can try a previous kernel, which may not work with the then desynchronized userland, but that's another story. Sysmerge already runs with rc.sysmerge in batch mode and sends the result by email. I don't think there's a merit to running it again in the playbook. The only perk would be discovering in the terminal whether any files needed to be manually merged, rather than reading exactly the same output in the email. Initially, I used the OpenBSD package module, but it doesn't work on current just because... just before a release, because package add automatically looks for pub/OpenBSD, then the release, and then /packages for the architecture, which is empty. I wrote and tested this playbook while 6.4 was around the corner, so I switched to command mode to be able to pass the dsnap parameter. And the result is, I'm very happy with the playbook. It performs the upgrade with a little intervention as possible and minimal downtime. And you can see the full playbook in the blog post, of course. Yeah, not too bad. Excellent.
And then one last story.
Oh, yes. So this story has a little bit of history. So this is over at Dan D'Angelo's blog, the other blog. So Dan always documents stuff that he's doing and stuff that he's learning, so other people can make use of that. And this time, it's using SmartD to automatically run tests on your drives. I think, Alan, you were involved in that as well.
Not really.
A little bit.
But I think part of the reason Dan writes down everything is so that, I find it very helpful because when he comes and asks for help, he's got the command output from before and after and every step that he's taken, which makes it much easier to figure out where he started, where he got to, and where he wants to get to. But also, 2 years from now, when he needs to know how to do something that has already been explained to him, he can go back and figure out what it was. So yes, I encourage more people to keep notes like this. You don't have to publish it, but you might as well. It's going to be helpful to somebody. So thank you very much, Dan, for doing this. But he goes on saying, SmartD and SmartCTL are two utility programs that are part of the SmartMon Tools package on FreeBSD. It's under the sysutils category in ports. These programs can control and monitor storage systems using the self-monitoring analysis and reporting technology system called SMART, built into most modern ATA and SAS drives, and even NVMe drives, although it's not really smart for NVMe, but it's basically the same thing. In many cases, these utilities will provide advanced warning of disk degradation and failure, and you can see their website for more stuff. But it says, note, due to OS-specific issues and also dependencies on the different state of SmartMon Tools development on that platform, device support is not the same on all OS platforms, but it's quite good on FreeBSD.
Oh, yeah.
So Dan says, I first started using SmartD back in March of 2010, according to the blog post I wrote about that. But then, and until recently, all it did was start SmartD. As far as I can tell, all it did was send daily status messages to via FreeBSD periodic tools. I would set my drive devices via the daily status smart devices variable in periodic.conf, and the daily status report would include the drive health information. So you would see, as the example output he has here, it just says, ADA0 is good, and DA0 is good, and DA7 is good, etc. But he says, looking at it more closely, you can see there's a bunch of flags. If you set the daily status SmartCTL flags, you see this defaults to -H, which is a basic health check. Perhaps this could be used to invoke the short / or the long or short drive tests, but I don't think that would be the best way to achieve the goal. So there are two types of tests. The short test, which takes a few minutes, and the long test, which can take many hours. You can see some of the output. He has a post from back in 2016 where he's played with that before. When I got a new drive, I run both the short and long test on them. While far from an exhaustive test, it's a basic smoke test to make sure the drive is good before you start using it. Now I see how I can easily configure these tests to run on a regular basis and get emailed about any issues. So originally he had his first attempt to do this, which started with a tweet. I have a strong urge to write a script to run monthly SmartCTL long tests on my drives. I would stagger them out throughout the month, like starting one drive each day or something, because he has 20 some odd drives. So he wrote a small script to enumerate the drives and test one drive per day and was getting ready to do some more work when Bryce Chidester saved him from all of that and pointed out that SmartD already has scheduling built into it. So that saved him a bunch of effort. So how do you prove that it works? When I started using a new feature, I like to know that it works. Given this is going to be a running test on a regular basis, I wanted to see what it does and what it says. So let's look at this Dell R710, which is his database server and runs a daily Poudre build, which has a smartd.conf that lists all of his devices and says to do a short test and a long test on a schedule.
Yeah, you need to know understand the syntax a little bit, but Dan goes into it.
Yep.
In a little while.
And then when you run SmartCTL scan and give it all of that information, you can see it doing the work. And it explains what the different parameters are. And so the S is the self-test and
the
has
slow
this
or
regular
the-
expression.
The short test and
Yeah,
the
whether you
long
do a
test
short
is after
test or a
that.
long test, and how often you should check it, and so on.
Yeah, and then he
So
looks
he's-
at the test results.
Yeah, he's running a short test every day on the 15th hour, and the long test on a certain day of the month, a different hour.
Yeah, and you can see that in the log. You can see the lifetime hours, and that's each time when the test runs. So you can see that there's a new test run added
Every-
to that log.
Yep.
And every
so
24
many
hours in this case.
Every 24 hours in this case, you can see a short test being done. And then the periodic long test.
So I have the same at the university because after I read that blog post on the next day, I pretty much implemented the same for the disk that I have in the big data cluster. I just use a different time because some students are night owls. Who would have thought? And so my short tests are run at 4 a.m. in the morning because we had some students that are still active at 3 a.m. but not at 4 a.m. So I think that's a good time. And I don't run any long tests because I think that's taking too much time. And there's no
it degrades the performance of the drive the whole time it's running. Now, the drive does try to only run the long test in the background and keep it from interfering, but you're making the drive do more work. So once a month,
And typically-
maybe more often than you want. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and typically the short tests tell you enough that whether the drive is dying or just updates the stats internally.
So importantly, Dan actually had a drive that was failing and was able to test the results. So he set it up, and you can see when you look at the output here, he's got extended offline test that completed but had a read failure. And so he should get an email about that.
Yeah, and you can see how the message looks like.
Yeah, you can see he got the warning that there was a failure on one of his Toshiba drives, and it gives him the serial number and all the details. And it also adds it to syslog, letting you know that the error count increased from 0 to 1.
Mm-hmm. And you should monitor that and prepare for that. Because, as Alan always says, your disks are plotting against you.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward. You just add that line. Remember not to put in the device scan line in your smartd.conf because that will invalidate everything else that comes afterwards. So comment outload that line, and then you can add your own smartctl scans for each individual disk that you have or drive, and then define when those tests should run and what the email address should be that it should be sent to. So all in all, great article. Well worth sharing.
Yeah, and he covers setting up on a couple of different machines that have different configurations. So it's interesting to be able to do to see that way and see how it works with different machines that have different configurations, whether that's having some SSDs and some hard drives, or having hard drives that are on different types of controllers and so on.
Yep. So people should set that up sooner rather than later.
And cut. 1 second, I gotta catch up here. How do you... Okay. Ready for the final bit?
Sure.
Do you want to start?
Sure, with decent picks, yeah.
Yep. For this one, you might want to note that the auction's already over. We just wanted to see what the picture looked like.
Yeah.
Which looks like 2 capybaras or something. I have no idea what's going on there.
Yeah, see, people have some artistry. Which I'm just stick figures.
Ayaka Koshobi.
Ayaka did that. Oh yeah, great.
Yes, okay. Explain. Okay. That's some nice drawing. It's higher quality than the wiener dog thing that Kirk drew in the FreeBSD one. Ready?
Yes, go ahead.
Begin.
So, time for Beastie Bits this week, starting with decent picks of RelayD and HTTPD mastery signatures. So remember, Michael W. Lucas did an auction during MeetBSD, so this is already over by the time you're watching this. And people could sign from either the OpenBSD camp or the FreeBSD camp those individual books, and this one is the decoration for RelayD and HTTPD mastery. He took a picture of that, and Ayaka did that. So the blog post is short. There's 3 OpenBSD devs at MeetBSD, or were actually. The auction for this first ever hardcover signed by these folks is or was up to $250, and that went
end
to
up selling for $1,000.
That went to the OpenBSD Foundation, and among others, you'll get an original Ayaka Koshiba illustration. You can see that
which
here.
is like 2 capybaras or something. I'm not entirely sure. The picture's small. I'm not. The art is good. It's just the picture is a bit small.
You would have to, be in the auction to get that and see it in full size. Yeah.
And there's a link to some ugly pictures of some of the other ones that you see people adding their own footnotes. Or actually, I think this one here is Kirk's wiener dog thing. I don't know if
it could be. Yeah. I see that often when he signs books. It's his signature icon or picture. But yeah, definitely a great idea by Michael Lucas to have that kind of auction during the conference. And yeah, thanks to all the people who auctioned or participated in the auction because it went to a good cause, either the sorry, the FreeBSD Foundation or the OpenBSD Foundation, respectively. Okay, next item is that we have a Unix shell poster from 1983. Oh, I was a small kid by then, but look at that shell here.
Well, I wasn't born until the year after.
So here you can see from the very inner circle going outside and getting bigger and bigger.
I think it was mostly that they wanted to write all the shell commands in the shape of a seashell.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And they all fit in there. So way back when, they still had that amount of commands available. And yeah, as you can already see which popular commands were still around or already around during that time.
Well, what's really interesting is that killing a process in the background was del for delete, and then like removing a background process like you know the BG and FG commands was with kill, and then to kill the current process was the delete key.
Ah, yes. There's no less command still. There's just more. Unless I don't see it here. But yeah, I see more on the left, but no less. Yes. Okay. Well, some of these commands are still to be developed. So definitely, maybe they still have those in print somewhere. So for the nostalgics around us, they could probably get one of those posters. I'm not sure. But yeah, good to have.
Well, the type of people who might have that would be the Cambridge Unix Historians meetup group.
Ah, yes, which brings us to our next item.
Yes, so this is a meetup group in Cambridge in the UK, organized by Demetrius. Is that the professor that did the talk that I'm thinking of, or not? I don't know. Anyway.
Could be.
I say we'll be getting together to discuss Unix, operating systems, compilers, networkings, etc. Don't forget to bring your copy of the Lions book, referring to the source code of Unix annotated books that used to have to be photocopied because they got shut down by AT&T.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember those. Okay, more current plans into modern days. The goals for FreeBSD 13 are listed here that we did.
Yeah,
so we did
our notes from the EuroBSDCon FreeBSD Dev Summit.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, not from the MeetBSD session where we had the have need want, but the goals actually from.
This is
Dev
just
Summit.
Broader goals of what we hope to accomplish in FreeBSD 13.
And if you find something interesting you always wanted to work on, then by all means, get involved.
Yeah. There's an entire page titled Documentation Sweep that could use help.
Oh, yeah. It's in need of much help. Yeah, but that's a good inspiration to see where things could head. Other things in our BSD Bits are the September/October issue of the FreeBSD Journal, which is now available or has been available for some time now. We just covered the headlines or some of the articles in there. So this issue has, basically the overall topic.
TCP stack virtualization, TCP stack validation at Netflix, a tour of using software-defined networking with Mininet from Ayaka, I think, actually. FreeBSD and processor trends, a letter from the FreeBSD Foundation, a new Faces of FreeBSD article, letters from readers, SVN update, a conference update, and a conference calendar, and lots of other goodies in there.
And we are still looking, or always looking, for people to write articles for the journal or review books for the journal. That can be arranged. If you're interested, then get involved or send me an email to bcr@freebsd.org, and I'll make the connections to the FreeBSD journal folks.
Yeah, they have good copy editors and so on, so they'll make your writing sound better.
Oh yeah, no, that's no problem. I mean,
yeah. So
my writing is not the best, but they turn
Your English grammar is a lot better than mine.
Yeah, well, okay, I have to thank my English teacher, I guess. But generally, they can proofread. They create these. I mean, I give them basically text, and they turn it into these nicely designed articles, and it's just amazing what they come up with each time. And yeah, this is a nice way of spicing up your text. Okay, next up, using ACME or acme.sh, which is your Let's Encrypt shell for Let's Encrypt certificates on packagesource.org servers. This is over at the NetBSD blog.
Yeah, so this is a post by SP Zeidler talking about how they actually use Peter Wem's write-up on how they use acme.sh on FreeBSD.org and making it work for the packagesource.org servers.
Excellent. So,
and in particular, they're using NS Update to create the dynamic records they need to verify DNS.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, that's good to have.
It's slightly simplified, and just having a second one to look at. The FreeBSD one is extra complicated because of the amount of moving parts involved. So seeing a slightly simplified version like this, but still fully automated, is very nice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, certainly. Okay, what's next?
Next, there's an article on deploying Anycast DNS using OpenBSD and BGP. They're talking about John Williams says, my home network is connected to the NYC Mesh, a community-owned open network. Recently, the failure of an SD card in my Raspberry Pi, the failure of an SD card in a Raspberry Pi at an adjacent large hub left my area of the network without a caching recursive DNS resolver. So I stood up my own instance at the 10.10.10.10 Anycast address that they use in their internal network. And he talks a bit about how he did it using OpenBSD, VMD, Unbound, NSD, RelayD, and OpenBGPD. So if you want to know how to create a DNS server and hook it up with Anycast, it's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the last item that we have is how to check your data integrity over at the dataswamp.org website. And they talk about, data degradation, bit rot, and damaged files or whatever you want to call it, simply by, the use of the data and storing it on media that is less reliable over time, and errors that could creep in.
There's no media that's completely reliable, so
unfortunately, yeah.
But yes, he's saying basically if the checksum of the data has changed, but the modification time of that data has not changed, then it's bit rot. When updating a file, it could be mistaken for bit rot. So if the checksum changed and the modification time changed, then that was an update instead. So how do you ensure that the change you saw was actually bit rot? And it covers a bit how to do that. But the real answer is just use ZFS.
I knew you were coming up with that. And it's actually in the article, so it's not a big surprise. And that's one way of...
The script called bitrot is available in OpenBSD ports. And they also talk about using the parity archiver to use only a small amount of space to likely be able to repair damage to one of those files.
Yep. Very nice overview and important topic for everyone using computers or storage media. Okay, time for our feedback and questions section. We are still running low on questions and submissions, so we try to scoop up what we have. But if you have any questions, then please send this to us. Don't be shy. Send this to feedback@bsdnow.tv. But we got this one from Raymond about MeetBSD California. Short and sweet, saying, hey guys, when and where are the videos for MeetBSD be published?
So a couple of them are out already. The videos from the Dev Summit are up. I've linked them in the show notes. They're on YouTube under IX Systems. They have a playlist for the Dev Summit and another playlist for the conference. For the conference, they have, I think, 3 of the videos out as of this morning, and the rest are still in the works, but you already have a couple of hours of content to hold you over until they post the next one.
Yeah, just to get the next dose. Yeah, excellent.
And by next week's episode, I will have a link to all of the videos from the Postgres conference as well.
Oh, excellent. It gets better and better. So you have something to watch over the weekend if it's raining and you can't go outside.
It might take you literally the entire weekend to watch all the videos.
Yeah. But yeah, if you have missed the conference and want to relive it somehow, then that's a good way of looking what was talked about. Okay, so thanks for that question, and thanks for the people who create those playlists and do all the video rendering and cutting. And next up is Greg with a question about stable versus release. It goes like this. Hi, Alan and Benedict. I've been a FreeBSD user for the last year and a Linux user before that since Slackware 3. One thing that has bothered me since switching to FreeBSD is the use of stable and release targets. Stable is actually the less stable version of FreeBSD, and release is actually stable. Is there a reason things are like this? It's very confusing to new users.
I don't know where a release would be considered less stable than stable, but so stable isn't meant to be unstable. But the important thing to understand is that when we call the branch the stable branch, we're not talking about the stability of it for operations. We're just talking about the stability of the ABI. So that means that a program compiled to work with that version, like FreeBSD 11, will work on FreeBSD 11.0, 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, etc. So the guarantee you're getting is that the binary compatibility between applications compiled to FreeBSD 11 will work on any other FreeBSD 11. And that's why it's called stable. I agree it's slightly confusing. But in general, there's not much reason to use the stable branch, so you should just use the releases.
Yeah, which has a little bit more fluctuation in the APIs. But still, people use the stable releases for, downstream products.
There's no release per se, but yes. In general, the stable branch is basically the pre-alpha of, like, stable 11 right now is the pre-alpha of FreeBSD 11.3. So it should just be 11.2 plus bug fixes and new features, and it should be completely stable. If it's not, that's a bug and should be fixed, but it's not. Yeah. I don't know. I've been thinking lately that we should change things around a little bit there and even go to just having FreeBSD 12, period.
That's it.
And we just have monthly or quarterly updates to that. So it's literally just FreeBSD 12 P4 or whatever. And it's not,
it's not
mostly because it gets confusing to people that FreeBSD 11 or FreeBSD 10.4 is newer than 11.1 and so on.
Yeah, that kind of overlaps.
And the fact that they end up intertwined, right? Where it's like 10.3 and then 11.1 and then 10.4 and then 11.2 really confuses people a bit. And maybe just calling it FreeBSD 11 would solve that. But then it raises the question, maybe we just go, it's FreeBSD 2019, period.
Yeah, a year release, and then we know what's
and then it just gets
newer.
updates once a month or once a quarter or something like that. I don't know.
People discuss
if
this.
any people
and,
have thoughts on how frequently they would like updates versus how long they would like to be able to go without updating, kind of thing. Well, not how long you would like to, because I know most people would just like to never have to change anything, but
yeah. No, that's a good question, though.
There's a page in the handbook that tries to explain it, but I understand that it's not great. I too was caught by the name stable, making it sound like, oh, I should be running that instead of this release. That was 4.8, I think.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah. Fool me once, right?
But yeah, nice that you're switching and trying out the BSDs or the FreeBSD in particular. And yeah, good luck on your journey. If you have more questions like this or get stuck somewhere, then don't hesitate to contact us again. And last but not least is MJ Rodriguez with an OpenBSD/FreeBSD support for a single board computer question. Hello, Alan and Benedict. I am considering running a common Unix printing system server in my house for cheap and was thinking of buying some single board computer to do it. Are there any specific boards that work great with the BSDs, or should I stay safe and just use a Raspberry Pi? Thanks for all the great shows. I hope to go to a conference one day. Yeah, definitely.
I think the Raspberry Pi 2 is probably the best supported one that would have everything you want. I'm not sure the support on the latest Raspberry Pi 3 and so on.
So I have the Raspberry Pi 3 and it's running my Zynga monitoring system quite well.
So does the Wi-Fi work though?
No, because that's the SDIO thing. I have a cable connected to
I don't know if
Ethernet.
it works or if there even is Wi-Fi on the 2. So yeah, the 3 works, but no Wi-Fi, just as a heads up. I think the Pine 64 is pretty far along as well. Not really my area of expertise. But yes,
I think they have external
probably
Wi-Fi dongle support.
The thing most popular, like a Raspberry Pi, is going to have the best support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and yeah, I think the Raspberry Pi 3, because it's ARM64, will have precompiled packages and be much easier to do. So I would recommend that.
Yeah. So why don't you, once you have that done, this cup server, write it down and send it to us, or create a blog post out of it, because that might be interesting to another person out there on the internets, if not just one. Then we all have something new to learn about how to run a cup server on this embedded board of your choice, or however you solve that. That would be great. So that brings us to our end of this episode. Remember to send us anything that you find online or that's interesting regarding show ideas or topics you find interesting. Send all of this to feedback@bsdnow.tv, and we'll have material for another episode next week.
See you next week. And cut.
Like we would run out of material. But questions are, the lifeblood.
Well, at some point, we're going to run out of, like, me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest threat at the moment.
The people, doing all the technology. I mean, I couldn't do the show alone without all the, software and equipment.
Well, I can send you the software. Don't worry about that.
You're already making yourself redundant. Yeah,
I have a license for the newer version of this software, and you probably could do the show using OBS instead, which might be even better. But
yeah, probably. I'm fairly. Yeah, I can figure it out. It's not too. But don't think about quitting.
Are you ready to do the cold open?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. This week on the show, we have Midnight BSD 1.0 being released. We have a Meet BSD review as well as EuroBSDCon trip reports for you. We have an article about DNS over TLS in FreeBSD 12, upgrading OpenBSD with Ansible, and how to use SmartD to run tests on your drives automatically, and more in this week's episode of BSD Now.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Okay. Okay, back to laptop questions. I think I should make a ranking of what's more important to me. Memory, processor speed, portability, in battery life. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. This one, I especially recognize it at MeetBSD, where I was constantly hunting for the next power outlet because it's down to like a 2-hour charge.
Yeah.
But it's a 5.
Like my X270 can do. If you're sipping power, you can do 24 hours. Otherwise, you're like 8, 12 or something like that.
Yeah, but
if
I mean,
you're
it's not a,
compiling World the whole time. It will run out after like 5.
of course, yeah. But I mean, I can charge at the office and I charge at home, of
Mhm.
course. But when I'm on the road, I'm always, will it be
Yeah,
enough?
well, that's how I ended up with the giant laptop, but I went to a newer one.
Mm.
I
Okay,
think the
size 14
X270
inch.
or the T470 are probably your best bet.
Why didn't you take an X1 Carbon?
I need real Ethernet.
Oh, right.
And
yeah.
everything on the X270 works, and the Carbon, I'm not sure. The X1 Carbon, they have different generations, and they just have a number that doesn't match up. It's very confusing. Whereas the X270 and T470, it says what it is on a sticker, or it's etched on the case. You know exactly what generation it is. An X1 Carbon, it says it's an X1 Carbon, but you're like, it's just generation 3, 4, 5, 6, and whether or not it'll work depends on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have a laptop store in town where I could go to and try out different models and see how they work. I mean, this is my first ThinkPad ever, so...
Yeah.
And it's a big move coming from an Apple back to the ThinkPads.
I could see why you might just get a new Apple instead as well.
Yeah, true. The MacBook Air they just released, but yeah, all these Apples have other kinds of issues nowadays. If you're used to the old way of, that's why I probably also stay on this one as long as I can. But if one day
I think
this
you've
one
already
dies,
gone
then
past as long as you can on that machine. If the battery's only got 2 hours in it.
yeah, and I mean it's fast enough. The only issue that I have in the office, if I connect a second monitor, the fans start really getting loud.
Right.
But
Whereas
once
if you tried a new one, you're like, oh.
Yeah, it works again. So, and I think there's also a speed increase, of course. Depends on how I use it. Yeah, I still need to make some kind of decision matrix and then go for it. But yeah, buying computers is there's always a bad timing for it because there's always the next one coming out just next week. And I should have waited a little bit longer. And
I don't know. I usually use the new one coming out as an excuse to get the older model while they're liquidating it.
Oh yeah, that has a bit of a discount on it.
Yep. Like that's why the T470s were on sale for half off because.
Yeah, and there's also Black Friday coming up. Not that this is important to me, but it could save me a bit of money. Yeah, I'll see. I don't have to rush things. I could also get one through the university as a work laptop. But I'm kind of limited in the budget that they give me. So, well. Anyway, that's my...
Oh, if you get a reasonable Lenovo, it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah, a lot of employees or professors have a Lenovo. There's always this Lenovo camp and there's the Mac camp. And yeah, it's like an eternal war.
If they'll buy you a Mac, then you can just get a Mac if you want. But
yeah, I don't know. It's not the price tag.
Yeah, I'm navigating the German Lenovo site, and it's mostly in German.
Well, I'm at the Canadian one.
Right.
Interesting enough. Oh yeah, the link you sent me. Yeah, but
yeah, well, that one's sold out now. Which is good because I kept being tempted to buy one and I shouldn't. But yeah, another thing to consider with the X1 is that I think you end up paying a bit more for the same amount of computer because it's thinner. Because, being thinner costs money.
Yep. Yeah, nowadays, yeah. It makes it also a little bit more brittle but yeah.
Right. I don't know. I would say an X270 or a T470 or 480 is fine too. Just watch out. Don't get the one with an S on the end. I'm pretty sure that makes it suckier. Yeah, like comparing an X1 Carbon 6th generation to X280, there's about a €500 price difference for pretty much the same amount of computer.
Yeah, there's also the X1 Extreme. Oh, wow.
That's
just
mostly just going to be all your monies.
Yeah, just for the name. Then I could stay with Apple. X280. That's the
Taken data.
Yeah. Well, this is not a familiar language to you.
Just always seems angry, which is fun.
Yeah, there was an article recently how languages sound differently to other country people because they're not familiar with it.
Yes, just because something is said in German doesn't mean it's angry. It just sounds angry.
Yeah, we can speak softly, and this is typically the mode we speak. I would say E480.
D or T?
E. Oh, 489 is
no,
complicated.
you want a ThinkPad, not something else.
Yeah, nothing. No play toy. Yeah, I'll look around a little bit more. I have a bit of time tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay, won't keep you too long.
Nope.
Have you booked stuff for FOSDEM yet? Hotels and
No,
flights
I
and
need
stuff?
to do that. You're at the Carrefour?
Yep.
I should do that.
It arrive on the Thursday like the years before.
Right, I have to remember that requires me to leave on the Wednesday in order to be able to arrive on the Thursday.
Yeah, because
That's stupid early in the morning.
Yeah,
Although
it's
the
tough,
Carrefour 2 years ago, I guess in 2017, the Carrefour had a room for me when I arrived at 8 a.m. So.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Maybe I'm
So you
lucky.
could sleep.
Mm.
I remember the jet lag coming back from MeetBSD wasn't that well. I couldn't sleep too well for a couple of nights, so I can see what you're going through.
That's what I
each
get
time.
every time I come to Europe.
Yeah. But yeah, you leave with chocolate. At least, especially for this one. Oh yeah, the things we do for BSD.
Yes, I might go on a shopping adventure to try to build a collection to do a chocolate tasting party.
Ooh, excellent. And we could have a nice dinner like we did this year in the restaurants Philip, or the restaurant Philip took us to.
Yeah.
That was cool.
The one that Brooks took us to the one time was very nice. I just happened to, I think, get an unlucky steak that wasn't very good.
Oh yeah, the one where one of the waiters also did a little bit of food prepping.
Well, yeah, where we see all the final prepping and so on. You know.
Yeah, we should go to that.
It was good. My teeth could not masticate that steak for some reason.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
It was still good though. The flavor was good. I think I just got an unlucky steak.
Yeah, you can always have that. You could also have that on board if you're in a specific price range. But anyway, yeah. So thanks everyone, and see you next week. I see you next week. Wait, do we have a core meeting next week? Yeah.
Yes.
I'll mix those up because I thought there was one on Monday this week, but it wasn't. So it's next week. Okay.
It was always Tuesday, but the time was messed up because of North America not changing yet. But we changed on Sunday, so it'll be back to the normal time, and it shouldn't be a problem for you.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Thanks, and have a good week. Where's my...
Bye-bye.
Ciao.